Chapter 1227. 1227 Emissary of the Heavenly God Sect. 36 Heaven's favorites stood on the 36 Tiangang peaks. They stood high up and looked down on the other heroes. For a moment, no one went up to challenge anymore. Of course, it didn't mean that these 36 were the strongest out of the 1,000 Heaven's favorites. There were also some who didn't want to go up. For example, Long Chen. Now that Long Chen's cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th level spiritual god realm, he would definitely be able to occupy a mountain peak with the terrifying power of his immemorial dragon elephant bloodline. There was also Lu Ming. Now that his 9-dragon bloodline had advanced to the 9th level of the divine level, his combat strength had become even stronger. It would not be much of a problem for him to occupy a mountain peak. Among the remaining geniuses, how could there not be a Heaven's favorite with terrifying strength? It was just that due to various reasons, he didn't make a move. After all, the Tianshan sect had not started the selection process yet. There was no need for some people to reveal their strength. Ha ha ha, it seems like your South God Palace can't hold on any longer. You've only occupied 7 mountain peaks. A loud laugh was heard from an emperor of the Western Deity Palace. The black-robed middle-aged man's expression was somewhat unsightly. There were a total of 36 mountain peaks, and the Southern Deity Palace's side only occupied 7 of them. Their strength was clearly on the weaker side. The strength of the Western Deity Palace and the Southern Deity Palace had always been similar. The competition between them was naturally very strong, and they would often compare themselves with each other. Moreover, in this selection of disciples by the Tianshan sect, the party that successfully joined the Tianshan sect would naturally receive more rewards from the sect. H. The geniuses of our South God Palace are just not that high profile. The black-robed middle-aged man snorted. Haha, so you're saying that there are many Heaven's favorites who can reach the Fector Peak in your South God Palace? The emperor of the Western Deity Palace sneered. The black-robed middle-aged man's face was cold and he didn't say anything. He wasn't confident either. He was just trying to hold on by saying that. Buzz. At this moment, one of the altars in the sky suddenly trembled slightly. Countless inscriptions flashed and light filled the air. Many people's hearts trembled as they looked at the altar with hope. Legend had it that the 9 ancient altars were the spatial path that led to the major forces of the Yuan continent. A long time ago, the continent of the Divine Ruins was able to communicate with the 9 major forces of the Yuan continent. That was why there were 9 altars. But now, the Divine Ruins continent had long lost contact with the 9 major forces, and the 9 ancient altars had not been activated for a long time. Some time ago, one of the forces, the Tianshan sect, suddenly got in touch with the Divine Ruins continent and issued an order to select disciples. Now, was the expert from the Tianshan sect, a major power of the Yuan continent, about to arrive? That was a major power of the Yuan continent. Most of the people's eyes were burning as they stared at the altar above. The Yuan continent was the core of the Yuan realm. It was the place that all cultivators yearned for, the holy land for cultivation. Over there were experts who truly stood at the peak. Legend had it that there were unparalleled mighty people who had survived from ancient times. There were countless paragons there. That place was extremely prosperous. Unfortunately, no one had ever been there, not even many emperors. Now, he was finally going to meet the strong cultivators of the major forces of the Yuan continent. Buzz. The light grew brighter and brighter. Finally, a door of light appeared on the ancient altar. Then, everyone saw figures emerging from the door of light. There were a total of 6 figures. The one in the lead was a Silevera-haired old man, and behind him were 2 middle-aged men. The 3 of them were just standing there casually, but they exuded an unparalleled pressure. The pressure was like a divine mountain weighing hundreds of millions of pounds, pressing down on everyone's hearts and making it difficult for them to breathe. So strong. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. The pressure that these 3 people gave off was far above that of the black-robed middle-aged man. In other words, these 3 people were all above the 3rd level of the martial royal realm. Behind the 3 of them were 3 youths. 2 men and 1 woman. The men were handsome and the woman was beautiful. The 3 young men and women looked around with a hint of curiosity in their eyes. However, there was more arrogance and disdain in their eyes. It was as if they were high and mighty emperors facing some beggars. Greetings, emissary of the heavenly god sect. The emperors of the 4 great divine palaces hurriedly saluted with great respect. Greetings, emissary of the heavenly god sect. The others, including the emissaries of the ancient city of the divine ruins, also saluted respectfully one after another. Are all the paragons of the divine ruins continent group here? The leading silver-haired old man spoke. His voice was melodious and resounded in everyone's ears. No matter how far away they were, they could hear it clearly. Reporting to the emissary, all the strongest paragons of the divine ruins continent group are here. An emperor from the North God Palace said respectfully. Good. From now on, my heavenly god sect will choose a group of heroes to join the heavenly god sect. There is no limit to the number. The main thing is your performance. If your performance is good, you will naturally be able to join the heavenly god sect. Therefore, you will have to go through a series of examinations. There will be 2 rounds in total. Now, we will be setting up the venue for the first round of examinations. It will take 7 days. So, the first round of examinations will be held in 7 days. You can come back here in 7 days, the silver-haired old man announced. Yes, we will take our leave. The emperors of the 4 divine palaces saluted and left with the geniuses. The 4 divine palaces had branches in the ancient city of the divine ruins, and they all had their own stations. Very soon, Lu Ming and the rest arrived at a huge mansion. Inside the mansion, there were many halls and many buildings. Lu Ming and the rest each had a spacious room. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing entered the room together and entered the mountain and river diagram. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged under the path understanding ancient tree, quietly comprehending. In the divine ruins, Xian Yanqing had obtained the inheritance of an unparalleled powerhouse who cultivated the demonic path. He needed time to comprehend it carefully. The Tao comprehension ancient tree could help Xian Yanqing improve quickly. Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged on another mountain peak. He waved his hand and a pile of raw gemstones appeared in front of him. There were millions of them. Now, Lu Ming's various concepts of heaven and earth had been greatly improved, far exceeding his current cultivation. It was time to use the rough stone to improve his cultivation. In this selection, there were many geniuses in the divine ruins continent. Lu Ming's current cultivation of the 5th level of the spiritual god realm was obviously not enough. Raw. The bloodline of the 9 dragons emerged and swallowed the millions of raw gemstones in one gulp. Then, it began to refine them. The 9-dragon bloodline had advanced to the 9th level of the divine level, and the power of devouring and refining had reached a terrifying level. The refining of origin stones had also reached an astonishing level. Millions of raw gemstones were continuously refined and transformed into essential core, which rolled around in Lu Ming's body like a tide. Boom, boom, boom. His essential core circulated and rumbled continuously. Lu Ming's spiritual god became more and more solid and dazzling. Lu Ming's cultivation level was also getting stronger. Not long after, millions of origin stones were refined. Lu Ming took out another few million and continued to devour and refine them. At his current realm, the number of raw gemstones that Lu Ming needed was even greater. Just like that, the number of refined raw gemstones that Lu Ming refined reached an astonishing 20 million. At this moment, a violent whistling sound came from Lu Ming's body. The aura on his body suddenly soared. 6th level spiritual god realm. After devouring and refining 20 million raw gemstones, Lu Ming's cultivation finally advanced to the 6th level of the spiritual god realm, and his strength increased greatly. Chapter 1228. 1228 7th level spiritual god realm. However, at this point, Lu Ming did not stop. He continued to devour the refined raw stone. His current intent realm cultivation was enough to support his cultivation level to soar. Piles of raw gemstones were continuously refined and transformed into Lu Ming's essential core. Early 6th level spiritual god realm, middle 6th level spiritual god realm, late 6th level spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's cultivation level was increasing at an alarming rate. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. On the 7th day, Lu Ming's aura had reached an unprecedented height. 7th level spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 7th level of the spiritual god realm in one go. So strong. Lu Ming circulated the true war dragon technique and felt the essential core in his body, which was 10 times stronger than before. A smile appeared on his face. His current combat strength was much stronger than it was 7 days ago. Right now, the stronger his cultivation, the stronger his true essence, and the more power he could unleash from the prison-suppressing heavenly art, the more his battle power would increase. Buzz. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, standing in front of Xian Yanqing. At this moment, Xian Yanqing also stood up and smiled. In just 7 days, Xian Yanqing's cultivation had actually increased by 2 levels, from the early stage of the 6th level spiritual god realm to the late stage. The speed was also shocking. Xian Yanqing had just received the inheritance of an unparalleled existence. During this period of time, her cultivation was in a period of explosive growth. As she understood more about the inheritance, her cultivation would continue to improve. It's time, let's go out. Lu Ming smiled, his eyes filled with confidence. The two of them exited the mountain and river diagram. Sure enough, everyone had already begun to gather. In a courtyard, many geniuses of the South God Palace were gathered. Above them was the black-robed middle-aged man. The black-robed middle-aged man's expression was very heavy. This time, the Heaven's Pride experts from the other 3 sides are all astonishingly strong. You must work hard. Once you are selected by the deity sect and become a disciple of the deity sect, not only will you be able to cultivate in the deity sect, but the South Deity Palace will also reward you handsomely. So, you must do your best. Yes. Everyone nodded in agreement. All right, follow me. The black-robed middle-aged man nodded and led the group into the air. Not long after, they arrived near the 36 Vector Peaks. Buzz. Whoosh. In the sky, the sound of air being torn rang out continuously. The other 3 heaven's favorites had arrived. Buzz. In the sky, with a flash of light, the Lever-Ahead Elder of the Heaven God Sect and the others appeared above the 36 mountains. The Lever-Ahead Old Man swept his gaze around and said, "This time, the first round will be held in a small dimension. There are no rules in there. You can use any means. Your mission is to stay in that dimension for 15 days. Those who can stay for 15 days will be able to enter the next round. As long as I can stay for 15 days, I can enter the next round." Many people were surprised. This sounded very simple. If he could stay for 15 days, wouldn't he be able to enter the next round after finding a place to hide? It shouldn't be that simple, many people thought. Also, in this small plane, there are some opportunities distributed. I can tell you that these opportunities are very rare in the continent group of the Divine Ruins, and they can greatly increase your strength, the Lever-Ahead Old Man said, his voice full of temptation. Many people's eyes lit up. This was an opportunity placed by the Heavenly Divine Sect. How valuable would it be? Of course, if you want to get these opportunities, you need keys, and the keys are with each and every one of you. The Lever-Ahead Old Man continued. You need a key. The key is with all of us. Many people were very surprised and had a face full of doubt. However, the Lever-Ahead Old Man obviously did not want to explain. An earth-shaking aura burst out from his body. The aura was so strong that even the black-robed middle-aged man, who was a Lever 3 Martial Royal Realm expert, was shocked. Sylar. The Lever-Ahead Old Man waved his hand, and a huge door of light appeared in the air. You all, enter from here. The Lever-Ahead Old Man said. Let's go. Buzz. Buzz. Whoosh. Immediately, some people rushed into the light door and disappeared. The Lever-Ahead Old Man had said that there was a great opportunity inside. If they entered first, wouldn't they have a higher chance of obtaining the great opportunity? Charge, charge, charge. One after another, young figures rushed into the light door. Little Qing, be careful after you enter. Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's small hand. I will, you too. Xian Yanqing nodded. Then, the two of them stepped into the air and rushed into the door of light. The next moment, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. Lu Ming found himself in the mountains. There was no one in the surroundings. As expected, he had entered this place randomly. He and Xian Yanqing had separated. Lu Ming took out a jade voice transmission talisman and sent a message to Xian Yanqing. Unfortunately, the message could not be sent out. What? At this moment, Lu Ming noticed that his spine was slightly hot and there were wisps of blood qi spreading out. The blood qi gathered above Lu Ming's head and finally formed a blood-colored key. Key? That silver-haired old man said that the key is with each of us. Could he be referring to this key? Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Perhaps there would be one above everyone's head. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming randomly chose a direction and soared into the sky. Hey! Who is that? After flying for a while, Lu Ming saw a hall floating in the sky. There was a floating palace here. Lu Ming was very curious and flew up. The palace's door was tightly shut, and in front of the door, there were two young men. Sure enough, there is a blood-colored key in each of them. Lu Ming saw a key floating above the two young men's heads. Open it. One of the young men punched the door of the palace heavily. However, the door did not move at all. Instead, the young man himself was pushed back by the force of the impact. I can't break it at all, I've tried it before, another youth said. At this moment, the two of them had also noticed Lu Ming and they looked at him. Lu Ming stopped not far away and carefully sized up the hall. It was unknown what material the palace was made of. The youth who attacked just now had a very strong cultivation, reaching the 6th level of the spiritual god realm. However, he still couldn't break it open. There are 9 small holes there. Could they be the keyholes? Lu Ming suddenly looked at a stone tablet beside the door. There were 9 small holes on the stone tablet that were arranged in a wonderful shape. The other two young men's eyes also lit up. 9 small holes. Do I need 9 people and 9 keys to open it? One of the black-robed youths guessed. Buzz. Suddenly, the youth in the 6th level of the spiritual god realm pounced toward the black-robed youth like lightning. A blade light condensed in his hand and slashed toward the black-robed youth. You! What are you doing? The black-robed young man was shocked and hurriedly tried to block it. Chapter 1229. 1229 Blood-Colored Key. However, the black-robed youth's cultivation was only at the peak of the 4th level spiritual god realm. He was far inferior to his opponent. In addition, he was in a hurry and could not block it at all. Poochie. Blood gushed out as the black-robed youth's head flew high into the air. Even his spiritual god was crushed. If we could seize your key, then there wouldn't be a need for 9 people. The 6th level spiritual god realm young man's lips curled into a cold smile. Then, a strange scene appeared. The bloodline power of the black-robed young man who was killed began to gather towards the blood-colored key. The blood-colored key was resplendent and filled with blood-colored light. Then, it flew towards the 6th level spiritual god realm young man and appeared above his head. 2 blood-colored keys appeared above the 6th level spiritual god realm youth's head. Ha ha ha, it was just a guess. I didn't expect that I could really seize it. As long as I gather the 9 keys, I can open this palace alone and obtain the opportunities inside. The 6th level spiritual god realm young man laughed and immediately looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. You didn't run away just now. Now, you'll be my key. The young man in the 6th level of the spiritual god realm revealed a ferocious expression and cold killing intent. It's a blood-colored key formed by the power of the bloodline. How amazing. Lu Ming could not be bothered with the other party. He muttered to himself with a curious look on his face. Brat, die. Seeing that Lu Ming had directly ignored him, the 6th level spiritual god realm youth's eyes bloomed with killing intent. He took a step forward and his figure charged toward Lu Ming like lightning. A blade light slashed toward Lu Ming's neck. Just now, he had killed the black-robed young man with the same move. Now, the power of this move was even stronger than that. The blade was about to hit Lu Ming's neck. 3 keys, he said. The young man in the 6th level of the spiritual god realm sneered as if he had already obtained 3 keys. However, in the next moment, his pupils suddenly widened, and his eyes were filled with horror. A spear's gleam had appeared out of nowhere and pierced through his dantian. It went straight through his body and crushed his spiritual soul into pieces. Fast, the spear light was too fast and terrifyingly powerful. The true essence that covered his body was pierced through by the spear light as if it was paper. You don't. He opened his mouth with difficulty, wanting to beg for mercy. The spear light shook, and the 6th-level spiritual god realm youth's body was torn into pieces. As soon as the young man died, the power of the blood in his body gathered towards the blood-red key. In the end, the 2 keys, which were glowing with a blood-red light, floated above Lu Ming's head. There were 3 blood-colored keys floating above Lu Ming's head, including his own. There are 3 keys. It seems like I can kill one person and take the other party's key. As long as I gather all 9 of them, I'll be able to open that palace and obtain the fortune inside. I just don't know if there are many of these palaces. If there are, then it would be a bloody massacre. Lu Ming sighed. In order to obtain the opportunities left behind by the Sky God sect in the palace, those heaven's favorites would definitely hunt others down like crazy to obtain the key. Little Qing. Lu Ming was a little worried about Xian Yanqing. First, we have to find Little Qing. Lu Ming made up his mind and was about to leave. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 streaks of light streaked through the air and appeared not far away. It's them. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Lu Ming recognized both of them because they were geniuses who had fought evenly with the continent. One of them was one of the people who had been defeated by Lu Ming in the Divine Ruins. He was at the 6th-level spiritual god realm. The other one had short hair and looked strong and capable. It was Lu Chengju, who had fought evenly with the number 2 heavenly pride of the continent. There were 2 blood-colored keys on top of Lu Chengzhou's head, and one on the other. The 2 of them first glanced at the palace, then at Lu Ming. It's him. It's that divine wilderness continent kid. 3 blood-colored keys. When the 2 of them saw Lu Ming, their eyes lit up and they were overjoyed. Lu Chengzhou's eyes were burning with excitement. He laughed and said, "It's actually this brat who dares to provoke me to fight to a draw with the people of the continent. Haha, give me your key." Lu Chengzhou laughed heartily. He dashed towards Lu Ming in a flash, as if he was afraid that Lu Ming would escape. Sila. A scimitar appeared in Lu Chengzhou's hand. The blade glowed like the moon and was aimed at Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming moved his feet and his body swayed slightly, avoiding Lu Chengzhou's saber light. "Brat, don't even think about running," Lu Chengzhou shouted coldly. "Me? Run? I'm just afraid you guys will run away." Lu Ming sneered. Buzz. He took a step forward and instantly closed in on the young man who had fought equally with the other young man on the continent. "You. Get lost." The young man shouted and used the fusion of blood meridians to launch his strongest attack in an attempt to stop Lu Ming. Back then in the Divine Ruins, although he was not Lu Ming's match, he could still exchange a few moves with him. The difference would not be too ridiculous. Now, he had the confidence to stop Lu Ming for a while. Bang! Lu Ming's punch landed on his blood meridian. Instantly, the person's blood meridian exploded. Even his physical body turned into dust under the punch. The power of his bloodline gathered on the blood-colored key above his head and appeared above Lu Ming's head. There were a total of 4 blood-colored keys above Lu Ming's head. Lu Chengzhou's eyes narrowed slightly. Lu Ming's punch had made him feel a little frightened. However, he was still confident. It's not bad for a mere divine wilderness continent to have a paragon like you. But you still have to die. Kill. Lu Chengzhou shouted coldly. His blade light tore open the void and left a hideous crack in the space. Whoosh. The sharp gleam of the knife was aimed at Lu Ming's throat. You want to kill me after fighting to a draw with the number 2 genius of the continent? Let's see what you've got. Lu Ming threw a punch and 8 streams of dragon energy burst out of his body as he activated the prison-suppressing heaven technique. The void seemed to be groaning under Lu Ming's fist. The space within a radius of 1,000 miles was shaking violently, creating ripples. Clang. The fist collided with Lu Chengzhou's blade light. Lu Chengzhou's expression changed drastically, and his body was sent flying like a cannonball. He spat out a mouthful of blood. 7th level of the spiritual god realm, but how can a 7th level spiritual god be so strong? Lu Chengju shouted in his heart. He could sense that Lu Ming's cultivation was at the early stage of the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. He was already shocked that there was an expert at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm in the divine wilderness continent. However, his cultivation was at the late stage of the 7th level spiritual god realm, which was higher than Lu Ming's. It was shocking that he was seriously injured by a single punch. He was afraid. This is a monster, let's go. Buzz. Lu Chengju turned around and ran for his life. It's too late to leave now. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps. With a few steps, he crossed the void and chased after Lu Chengju. In a few breaths, he was close to Lu Ming. I'm going to kill you. Lu Chengju roared as he merged his bloodline and transformed into a scimitar. The scimitar emitted a blinding light and slashed at Lu Ming. Clang! Lu Ming threw a punch and the scimitar shook violently before it flew far away. Clang! Then, Lu Ming threw another punch. With a bang, the scimitar exploded. It was no match at all. Chapter 1230. 1230 White Feather Continent. Currently, out of Lu Ming's 5 types of intents, 3 of them had reached complete level 4 and 2 of them had reached the peak of level 4 upper tier. The power of the fusion and explosion of 5 types of intents alone was already very shocking, not to mention the other intents. Now, Lu Ming could easily crush the ordinary prodigies of the same level, even if they had awakened a 9th level divine level bloodline. The scimitar exploded, and Lu Chengzhou's body was sent flying far away. His entire body was almost torn apart, and he was covered in blood. Blood was also spurting out of his mouth. How could this be? How can he be so strong? He roared in his heart and was extremely frightened. To be able to rank 8th among the 42 continents of the Divine Ruins continent cluster, he had many heavens favorites. To be able to rank 2nd among the many heavens favorites, he was definitely below one person and above millions of people. He was invincible among his peers. But now, he was seriously injured by Lu Ming in a few punches when they were at the same level. It was unbelievable. All he could think of now was to escape. The further he ran, the better. However, Lu Ming would not give him the chance. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch. A violent force was directed at Lu Chengju. No, no! Lu Chengju screamed hysterically, but in the next moment, his body exploded and his soul was destroyed. The power of his blood gathered toward the keys. In the next moment, 6 blood-colored keys appeared above Lu Ming's head. Buzz! At that moment, the 6 blood-red keys trembled as if they were resonating with each other and gave off dense blood-red light. The light from the 6 keys then gathered, forming an incredibly powerful blood-red pillar of light that shot into the sky. At this moment, even though they were very far away from Lu Ming, they could see the blood-colored light pillar. What's that? What a dense bloodlight. Is there a rare treasure? Let's go and take a look. Let's go. One after another, figures pounced in Lu Ming's direction. Lu Ming looked at the light pillar above his head and was dumbfounded. Could it be that gathering 6 keys would cause such a phenomenon? It would be too difficult to gather all 9 keys. Wouldn't it be strange if other experts weren't attracted by such a phenomenon? There was no place to hide. It was too difficult to obtain the opportunity mentioned by the Heavenly Divine Sect. If that's the case, then I'll kill whoever tries to touch me. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He decided not to leave. He stood in the void and waited quietly. Not long after dash. Buzz. Whoosh. The sound of breaking the air rang out continuously. 7 or 8 young men wearing feather clothes appeared first. It's him. It's Lu Ming. One of them was Mu Ju. He shouted as soon as he saw Lu Ming, his eyes gleaming coldly. 6 keys. A piece of trash from the Divine Wilderness continent actually managed to gather 6 keys. It seems like his luck is pretty good. The moment he arrived, he encountered a pile of even more trash. A young man with black wings sneered. How strong could a person from the Divine Wilderness continent be? For him to be able to gather 6 keys, he must have encountered an even trashier continent, which was why Lu Ming had 6 keys. Kill him and I can gather the 9 keys. A young man in Silivera feather clothes licked his lips and sneered. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, let's see how you're going to die this time. You were lucky last time. Mu Ju laughed. There were 7 prodigies from the white feather continent. One of them was the young man in the white feather robe who had stepped onto the 36 Fector peaks. He was high and mighty, and he stood above all the other prodigies. With the paragons of the white feather continent around, he was sure that Lu Ming was dead for sure. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of air being torn continued to ring out. A group of young men appeared behind Lu Ming. The one in the lead had a green beard and an extremely powerful aura. There are 6 keys. Haha, these 6 keys are mine. The green-bearded young man's eyes glowed with a scorching light when he saw the 6 blood-colored keys above Lu Ming's head. There were 4 keys above his head. Including Lu Ming's, he had 9 keys. Brutal wind, it's you. On the white feather continent, the expression of the young man in Silivera feather clothes changed slightly. The green-bearded young man came from the Yellow Man continent and was ranked 5th in the continent group of the Divine Ruins. He was also an expert who had reached the 36 Fector peaks. Haha, Silivera Wing, what a coincidence. The green-bearded youth grinned. Man Feng, I found this kid first. You'd better leave as soon as possible. Silivera Wing said coldly. Ha ha ha, this is ridiculous. This is the test of the Tiantian sect. Who told you that first come, first served? It all depends on your ability. The key will belong to whoever kills him first. Man Feng grinned and laughed. He looked very simple and honest, but the cruel killing intent in his eyes made people's hearts turn cold. At this moment, from other directions, there were also sounds of flying. Another young genius had arrived. However, when they saw Man Feng and Silivera Wing, their expressions changed. Not good. It's the heaven's favorites who have reached the 36th peak. Retreat. Let's go. The people who came later all retreated with a change in expression. Lu Ming is dead. One of them was the divine wilderness continent's proud son of heaven, Shadu. At that moment, his eyes flickered with a gloating light as he fled far away. Kill. At this moment, the Silivera wings suddenly burst out. A pair of Silivera wings appeared on his back. He pounced at Lu Ming like a bolt of Silivera lightning. His sharp claws could tear through everything as he clawed at Lu Ming. Silivera Wing, you're despicable. You actually sneak attacked him. This kid is mine. Man Feng roared in anger, and a beast's roar came from his body. He took a few steps in the air and charged towards Lu Ming. The two of them had completely regarded Lu Ming as their prey, their key provider. In their eyes, Lu Ming's fate was already set. He was dead. They had to be on guard against the other party. It's mine. Silivera Wing's eyes were cold. He had killed Lu Ming in one move. In that case, he would kill Lu Ming first and Lu Ming's blood-red key would naturally belong to him. Hehe, you're just ignoring me. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He shifted his feet slightly and dodged the Silivera Wing's grasp. Brat, you still dare to dodge? Die. The Silivera Wing bellowed and its claws swiped at Lu Ming rapidly. Lu Ming actually dared to dodge. He was furious. He had seized the opportunity with great difficulty. If Lu Ming dodged, would he not lose it? In his heart, he would not even consider the fact that he wanted to kill Lu Ming. Was it not normal for Lu Ming to dodge? He was only thinking that if Lu Ming dodged, he would destroy his opportunity. Then I won't dodge, Lu Ming said indifferently. Then dash. Boom. An extremely shocking aura burst out from his body. The aura of the 7th level spiritual god realm was completely released. The 5-colored concept surrounded him as he punched out. This punch landed on one of Silivera Wing's claws. Catcha. The sound of bones breaking was heard. Silivera Wing screamed and retreated quickly. Chapter 1231. 1231 Chapter 1231 Easily killed. What? Man Feng was rushing toward Lu Ming, worried that Silivera Wing would get the first move. However, he suddenly saw that Silivera Wing's claw was injured by Lu Ming's punch and it was forced to retreat. He was a little stunned. In his imagination, This was not the case at all. He was still worried that Lu Ming would be killed by Silivera Wing in 2 moves and was silently praying that Lu Ming would be able to dodge and withstand a few moves. He had never expected that it would actually be such a scene. Kill! Lu Ming shouted coldly, his killing intent extremely strong. Enveloped by Lu Ming's killing intent, Silivera Wing's entire body turned cold and he retreated rapidly. "Didn't you want to kill me? Why are you retreating now?" Lu Ming said coldly. He took a step forward and caught up with the Silivera Wing in an instant. He struck out with his palm. The power of this palm made Silivera Wing's hair stand on end and his muscles tremble in fear. Gah! With a sharp cry, Silivera Wing transformed into a big Silivera bird, emitting Silivera light all over his body. It turned out that Silivera Wing wasn't a human, but a demon. This was his true form. He transformed into his original form and folded his Silivera wings to block in front of him in an attempt to block Lu Ming's attack. Bang! Lu Ming's palm struck down and destroyed the Silivera wing's protective demonic energy. His palm hit the Silivera wing's wings and with a clang, the wings exploded. Silivera feathers flew all over the sky. Arg! Silivera Wing screamed and retreated like a madman. He was like a Silivera lightning. Bang! 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 Lu Ming took a few steps forward and used the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps. The power of each step was stronger than the previous one. The power of each step landed on Silivera Wing's body. With every step, Silivera Wing's body trembled violently. When Lu Ming took the 8th step, Silivera Wing let out a shrill scream and its body was torn to pieces. Silivera blood scattered in the air. How can he be so strong? On the other side, Man Feng was dumbfounded. Then, he felt a chill in his heart. It was too shocking. Silivera Wing's combat strength was about the same as his, but he was killed by Lu Ming in a few moves. This was too terrifying. Run, quickly run. The first thing that flashed through his mind was this sentence. Then, he turned and ran. "Didn't you want my key? Why is he running away now?" A cold voice sounded in Man Feng's ears. "You're courting death." Man Feng roared in fear. He exploded with all his strength and threw a punch at Lu Ming, but what greeted him was Lu Ming's punch. Bang! The 2 fists collided. Man Feng felt a sharp pain in his arm. The bones in his hand were broken by Lu Ming's punch. Boom! 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 Following that, Lu Ming's attacks were like a storm. The shadows of his fists were like mountains, enveloping the brutal wind. "No!" Man Feng roared, but in the next moment, he was drowned. Then, with a scream, Man Feng was killed. The 2 top powerhouses who could ascend the 36 Vector Peaks were killed by Lu Ming in an instant. What? How did this happen? Not far away, the paragons of the White Feather Continent and the Yellow Man Continent watched this scene in shock, their mouths agape. How is that possible? How is this possible? Especially Mujue, he couldn't stop mumbling. He couldn't accept what was happening. Lu Ming's combat strength was very strong. He had long known that Lu Ming had killed so many experts in the divine ruins. Even a perfected spiritual god was not Lu Ming's match. However, the geniuses who were able to ascend the 36 Vector Peaks all had combat strength that could suppress those in the great circle of the spiritual god stage. They could even kill those in the great circle of the spiritual god stage. Their combat strength was extremely close to that of a supreme being and were definitely above Lu Ming's back then. He had thought that Silivera Wing would be able to kill Lu Ming. But now, Lu Ming played it down. He casually slashed Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind in succession without even activating his blood meridian. This kind of combat strength was too shocking and terrifying. Mujue, it's your turn now. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Mujue. No, no! Mujue almost peed his pants in fear. He screamed and ran back frantically. The others also dispersed in an uproar. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure was like lightning as he rushed towards Mujue. Don't kill me, help me. Mujue shouted madly, he didn't have the courage to resist. Didn't you want to kill me? Lu Ming said. No, I beg you, let me go. Mujue was about to cry. Back then in the divine ruins, why didn't you consider letting me off? Lu Ming sneered. His killing intent was extremely cold. He had to kill Mu Ju. Lu Ming, I'm the young master of the Mu family. My father is the master of the Mu family, a king. If you kill me, no one can save you. You're dead too. Mu Ju shouted. Seeing that begging for mercy wasn't going to work, he began to threaten. That's my business, you don't have to worry about it. Lu Ming sneered, unmoved. Don't. Mu Jue trembled in fear and only knew to scream. Kill. Lu Ming could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Mu Ju. He struck with his palm and Mu Ju was killed without any resistance. Buzz. At this moment, the light above Lu Ming's head was even more dazzling. The blood-red light pillar was even more brilliant. That was because there were a total of 9 blood-colored keys floating above Lu Ming's head. Why are there only 9? Lu Ming was very surprised. Earlier, he had killed Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind. Logically speaking, he should have obtained more than 10 keys from them. However, there were only 9 keys above Lu Ming's head. It seems that I can only get 9 at a time. Any more than that would be a waste. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Let's open the palace first. Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on the palace. All of a sudden, Lu Ming's hair stood on end as he sensed danger approaching him rapidly. Whoosh! In the sky, a sword light descended from the sky and headed toward Lu Ming. Before the sword gleam arrived, a terrifying chill descended, as if it was going to freeze Lu Ming completely. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lu Ming threw a punch at the sword gleam. With a bang, the sword light exploded and turned into ice fragments that scattered in all directions. This was an ice sword. As for Lu Ming, he took 3 consecutive steps back. So cold, such a terrifying cold chi. Lu Ming felt that his fist was a little numb. He lowered his head and saw that a layer of ice crystals had formed on his fist. His fist was covered with 5 different concepts of heaven and earth, as well as the essential core. Under his skin, there was also the dragon power due to the explosion. However, the cold air had actually passed through his multiple defenses and was about to freeze Lu Ming's fist. Lu Ming had never seen such a cold air before. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and saw a young man in white, walking toward him. 5 keys were floating above the man's head. It's him. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This person was one of the 4 most powerful geniuses of the North Deity Palace. He was on par with Ji Hongchen, Wang Zhen, and the others. Ice Dragon, Lu Ming murmured. The black-robed man had specially compiled a list of the most terrifying geniuses of the 4 divine palaces and the top-ranked continents. Lu Ming had seen them before. Chapter 1232. 1232 Chapter 1232 Fighting the Ice Dragon. Not bad. To be able to take a blow from me and only retreat 3 steps without being injured, you're quite strong. The ice dragon stepped down and spoke indifferently, with an arrogant look. Previously, he had seen Lu Ming kill Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind, but he was still full of confidence. Stepping onto the 36 Qiangang peaks didn't mean anything. He didn't care about Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind at all. You also want my key? Lu Ming stared at the ice dragon and said. Hee, you just happened to encounter it, so you naturally can't miss it. You can only blame yourself for being too unlucky. The ice dragon spoke in a cold voice as if it had Lu Ming in the palm of its hand. You're that confident. Just now, Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind were just as confident, but in the end, they were just giving me the key. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Don't compare me to those 2 pieces of trash. Otherwise, you'll realize that you've made a huge mistake. The ice dragon smiled confidently. As he spoke, he strode towards Lu Ming, his body exuding a terrifying chill. Lu Ming's essential qi was boiling and burning. It seems like you want to fight to the death. You're really like a mantis trying to stop a car. The ice dragon's voice turned cold. Endless ice crystals suddenly appeared around his body. The water vapor in the air was frozen by the cold air and condensed. Around the ice dragon, even the wind stopped, as if it had been frozen. Whoosh! The ice dragon pointed a finger at Lu Ming, and a terrifying cold air shot towards him. The cold air seemed to be able to freeze everything in its path. Boom. In Lu Ming's body, vital essence was howling. The 5 types of heaven and earth concepts were circulated to the extreme, forming a pair of 5-colored boxing gloves on his fists. Then, he punched out at the finger force. Bang! With a violent explosion, a white wave of cold air spread out in all directions. At this moment, with them as the center, the sky within 1,000 miles was white and countless ice crystals appeared. Lu Ming's body swayed and he took 2 steps back. It's so cold. This time, not only on Lu Ming's fist, but on his body as well. A layer of white ice crystals appeared. What? The ice dragon raised its eyebrows. It was clearly surprised that Lu Ming had caught its finger. He was confident that he could kill Silivera Wing and Man Foam with this finger. 10,000 miles of ice. The ice dragon's aura grew even colder. This time, it switched its fingers to a palm and smacked out. The entire sky was filled with cold air that enveloped Lu Ming. At this moment, the space seemed to be frozen. Lu Ming felt as if his body had fallen into a swamp and he could not move. Die. It's your honor to die in this move of mine. The ice dragon's cold voice rang out. Oh, really? Then let's try the 9th dragon power. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. A dragon's roar rang out from his body and the 9th dragon energy erupted. At this moment, Lu Ming's body was covered in a layer of purple crystal light. His muscles were squirming slightly. This power. Lu Ming seemed to have transformed into 9 dragons. His dragon energy was boiling and filled with endless power. Boom. With Lu Ming as the center, the space within a 5-kilometer radius was annihilated and turned into nothingness. The feeling of falling into a swamp also disappeared. Boom. Then, he threw another punch at the ice dragon and it collided with his palm. This strength. When the fist and palm collided, the ice dragon's expression changed greatly. His body trembled, and 9 layers of thick ice crystals appeared in front of him. At the same time, he quickly retreated. Boom boom. The 9 layers of ice crystals were reduced to ashes under Lu Ming's terrifying strength. Kai Kai. The ice crystals contained boundless cold air. They wanted to seal Lu Ming in ice, but Lu Ming shook them away with his strength. This cold chi seems to be the ice mentality, but why is it so terrifying? The temperature is so low. Lu Ming was also a little surprised. He had come into contact with the ice concept many times. Although it was powerful, it was still 100,000 miles away from the ice dragon. The ice dragon's frost concept was extremely powerful. Lu Ming had never seen it before. Lu Ming was shocked, but the ice dragon's heart was in turmoil. Lu Ming could actually defeat him head-on. It was beyond his expectations. It seems that you have been hiding your strength. Your strength is indeed amazing, but it's still too early to fight with me. The ice dragon's voice became colder and colder. The aura on his body also became stronger and the cold air became colder. The early stage of the 8th level of the spiritual god realm was the cultivation of the ice dragon. At such a young age, his cultivation had already reached the early stage of the 8th level spiritual god realm. In addition to that extremely terrifying ice concept, the ice dragon could easily kill a great circle spiritual god. Martial technique of intent, absolute zero. Hoo-hoo. At this moment, the ice dragon performed the bloodline fusion and turned into an ice sword. The sword light was shocking. The moment the sword light appeared, everything in the world seemed to stop moving. It was as if they had been frozen. There was only the sword light in the world. The icy sword slashed at Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze turned solemn. The ice dragon's cultivation was 1 level higher than his, and with the terrifying ice concept, his combat power was shocking. The ice dragon indeed had the right to be arrogant. For example, Silivera Wing and Brutal Wind were not even worthy of carrying the shoes for the ice dragon. If they were too far apart, they would be killed with a casual move. Roar. The 9-dragon bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming also performed the bloodline fusion and transformed into 9 dragons. Kill. The 9 dragons stepped in the air and charged toward the ice dragon. The 2 of them began a great battle. Boom. 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 The entire area was blown apart, and an endless amount of energy mixed with a terrifying chill wreaked havoc in the world. In the distance, some people saw Lu Ming's blood-red light pillar and wanted to rush over to see what was going on. However, thousands of miles away, they saw the two of them fighting. All of them widened their eyes in horror and turned to leave. Heavens, how can he be so strong? Are they still of the same generation as us? That's too terrifying. With such strength, he can almost fight with a supreme being, right? Go, quickly go. The Heaven's favorites all scattered in fear. They didn't dare to get too close, afraid that they would be sucked in and die. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had exchanged dozens of moves with the ice dragon. The dragon's roars shook the sky as Lu Ming's courage mounted as the battle progressed. Every inch of the 9 dragons' bodies and muscles were weapons of war. He used the true dragon combat technique, 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps, and the prison-suppressing heavenly technique in turns. The power of the 9 dragons seemed to be able to destroy everything, and the power of the prison suppression heavenly art seemed to be able to suppress everything. Although the ice dragon's frost concept was extremely terrifying, Lu Ming had comprehended 5 types of heaven and earth concepts after all. When they were gathered together, he could still resist it. Sylar. The dragon claw broke through the ice dragon's ice armor and left a deep mark on it. Bang! The divine dragon wagged its tail, and the prison-suppressing heavenly art burst forth, sending the ice dragon flying. Who is this person? Which continent does he come from? How could he have such astonishing battle strength? The ice dragon quickly retreated. The more he fought, the more shocked he became. Chapter 1233. 1233 Martial Technique of Creation. I'll let you off this time. We'll fight again next time. The ice dragon left these words and actually turned to leave, escaping just like that. Lu Ming did not give chase. He transformed back into his human form and stared coldly in the direction where the ice dragon had left. The ice dragon was indeed very powerful. Although Lu Ming still had some tricks up his sleeve and had not activated his 3rd blood meridian, he might not be able to kill the ice dragon even if he activated his 3rd blood meridian. Moreover, he already had 9 keys. Even if he killed the ice dragon, he wouldn't be able to obtain more keys. Take a look inside the palace. What's inside? Lu Ming flew high into the sky and came to the front of the hall. There was a stone tablet in front of the gate of the palace. There were 9 small holes on the stone tablet, just like keyholes. With a thought, the 9 keys above his head flew into the 9 small holes. All 9 keys were inserted into the small hole. Catcher. The palace's door opened. As expected, a smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. Without any hesitation, he stepped out and entered the hall through the door. As soon as Lu Ming entered, the door of the hall closed again. Within the palace was a large hall. Lu Ming swept his gaze around. Lu Ming discovered that there were several platforms in the hall. There were orbs of light on the platforms. He could see that there were symbols under the light. On one of the platforms, under the light balls, there were some symbols of pills. The powerhouse from the Tiantian sect said. There were opportunities in this small plane, and the keys were with each of them. The opportunities he was talking about should be these light balls, right? Lu Ming made a guess and then continued to size him up. Under the ball of light on the other platform, the symbol was much more complicated. Under some of the balls of light were patterns in the shape of lightning. Under some of the light orbs were patterns of flames, waves, tornadoes, and others. What's in these light balls? How many can I choose? You can't possibly give them all to me, right? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming walked to the light orb marked with the lightning pattern and reached out to grab it. The ball of light was destroyed and a jade talisman was in Lu Ming's hand. It's that easy. Lu Ming was a little surprised. Then, his eyes lit up and he stretched out his hand to grab another ball of light. It didn't move at all. The ball of light seemed to be a layer of protective shield that firmly blocked Lu Ming. Lu Ming circulated his quintessential essence and even unleashed his dragon energy. However, the ball of light did not budge at all. He could not break it. Following that, Lu Ming changed to another light orb but the result was the same. Lu Ming tried almost all the light orbs, but he could not break any of them. It seems like I can only obtain one item from each ball of light, Lu Ming guessed, and could only give up. I wonder what is recorded in this jade token? Lu Ming was somewhat curious. What was the opportunity that the Tiantian sect was talking about? He sent his spiritual sense into the jade token and carefully examined it. It's a martial technique, a low-grade martial technique of God-level intent. Martial technique of creation? After Lu Ming took a look of doubt flashed in his eyes. What was a martial technique of creation? Lu Ming only knew about bloodline martial arts techniques. Other than bloodline martial arts techniques, the other martial arts techniques were all ordinary martial arts techniques. How could there be martial arts techniques of creation? Lu Ming had never heard of it. Immediately, Lu Ming read the content carefully. The Thunder God Strike was the name of this martial technique. So amazing, so amazing. After looking at it for a while, Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was filled with amazement. He finally understood what a martial technique of creation was. Ordinary warriors who had comprehended the will of heaven and earth would become more powerful as their levels increased. However, they had not yet discovered the true power of the will. Normal martial artists only used the power of intent roughly. Take Lu Ming for example. The fusion of 5 types of heaven and earth intent realms was usually only used to increase Lu Ming's attack power. However, the deeper levels of each intent realm had not been excavated. As for martial techniques of intent, through martial techniques and special operations, the power of the intent could be exerted to the fullest. The potential of the intent could be used to the extreme. Lu Ming had never even heard of martial arts techniques of creation in the divine wilderness continent. The levels of martial techniques of intent were the same as ordinary martial techniques, such as the low-grade divine level and the high-grade divine level. The low-grade divine level martial technique focused on the deep application of intent. As for the high-grade god-level techniques, they were not considered intent martial techniques. They should be called domain martial techniques, which could exert the emperor's domain to the extreme. The power of martial techniques of creation was several times stronger than ordinary martial techniques and even bloodline martial techniques. It was very terrifying. Lu Ming looked at it carefully. The more he looked, the more shocked he was. What a powerful and terrifying power. However, it's too profound. The difficulty of cultivating it is astonishingly high. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The martial technique of creation was powerful, but it was more difficult to cultivate. Lu Ming felt that although they were both low-grade divine-level martial arts techniques, the difficulty of cultivating the martial arts technique of creation was 100 times more difficult than cultivating ordinary low-grade divine-level martial arts techniques. Yes, it was 100 times. Martial techniques of creation were 100 times harder to cultivate than ordinary martial techniques. Lu Ming frowned and looked at it carefully. In the end, he simply took out the path understanding ancient tree and placed it at the side to help with his comprehension. Unconsciously, Lu Ming's mind was immersed in the Thunder God Strike, trying to figure out the profoundness of it. After the Battle of Providence, Lu Ming's comprehension had increased by 10 times. Now, under the path understanding ancient tree, his understanding of the Thunder God Strike was improving rapidly. Lu Ming was completely immersed in the cultivation of the Thunder God Strike. 7 days had passed unknowingly. Bolts of lightning were swimming around Lu Ming's body as if they were alive and had spirituality. In the end, the lightning on Lu Ming's body increased in number but became thinner. In the end, there were countless bolts of lightning, each one thinner than a strand of hair. Countless bolts of lightning as thin as this weaved together to form a lightning armor. It looked exactly the same as ordinary clothes. There was no difference at all. However, if anyone touched it with their hands, they would be turned to ashes by the power of lightning. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. I've successfully cultivated the first level of the Thunder God's Strike. Lu Ming muttered to himself. After 7 days of comprehension, Lu Ming had successfully cultivated the first stage of the Thunder God's Strike in one go. This speed was already very shocking. Some peerless geniuses could spend their entire lives and still not reach the first level. Martial arts techniques of intent are indeed wonderful. It can fully unleash the potential energy of the thunder intent. I'm still at the first level. The more I practice, the more powerful it will be. Lu Ming looked at the lightning combat suit draped over his body. With a thought, the lightning combat suit disappeared. It seems that the ice dragon also cultivates martial techniques of creation. No wonder the ice creation can release such a terrifying power. Lu Ming thought of the ice dragon. However, the ice dragon should have cultivated it a long time ago. It had just entered this place at that time, so it couldn't have obtained it from here. The martial technique of creation should have been inherited from the North God Palace. Chapter 1234. 1234 Chapter 1234 Fighting for the Key. The Divine Ruins continent was indeed the #1 continent in the Divine Ruins continent cluster. Martial techniques of intent that were unheard of in the Divine Wilderness continent could be inherited here. Perhaps the 4 great divine palaces all had the inheritance of martial arts techniques of creation. Most of the strongest geniuses of the 4 great divine palaces had come into contact with them and cultivated for many years. Their power must be extraordinary. Lu Ming guessed that the ice dragon must have cultivated the ice concept martial arts technique to the 2nd level. I didn't expect 7 days to pass so quickly. It's time to go out. I wonder how little Qing is doing. Lu Ming was a little worried. He had unknowingly fallen into his previous state of enlightenment. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen this time to attain enlightenment. He would have definitely found Xian Yanqing first. This place was too dangerous. All the elites were killing each other to take each other's keys and opportunities. Even with Xian Yanqing's cultivation and combat strength, he was still in danger. Without further hesitation, Lu Ming walked out. Catcher. When Lu Ming came to the door opened automatically and he stepped out. After Lu Ming left, the door closed automatically. Whoosh. A blood-red key flew out of the 9 keyholes on the stone tablet and floated above Lu Ming's head. It was Lu Ming's sword. The other 8 swords had disappeared. Whoosh. Whoosh. At this moment, a few figures flew out from the mountains below. Someone has indeed entered the palace. Stop him, don't let him go. So it's him. I recognize him. He's from the Divine Wilderness continent. A series of voices rang out. Lu Ming recognized one of them. It was the #1 heaven's favorite of the Shani continent, Yi Kuang. After this period of time, Yi Kuang's cultivation had also broken through the bottleneck and entered the 6th level spiritual god realm. A total of 3 people surrounded Lu Ming from 3 directions. When they came here some time ago, they found 9 keyholes on the stone tablet in front of the gate. They had the keys and knew that someone had gone in. The few of them waited in the mountains below and saw Lu Ming coming out. This person can't be underestimated. His combat strength isn't weak. Yi Kuang's eyes were solemn. What are you afraid of? With the 3 of us joining hands, do we still need to fear him? Another youth said. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. You're looking for death. Let's join forces and kill him. A young man shouted. Bang. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch. The man's body was torn to pieces. Then, Lu Ming charged at Yi Kuang and the other man. No! Yi Kuang roared in fear. Bang! Bang! With 2 loud bangs, there were 2 more corpses on the scene. 3 keys appeared above Lu Ming's head, and there were 4 keys again. Lu Ming did not stop. He used the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps and flew in one direction at top speed. At the same time, he spread out his spiritual sense to search for Xian Yanqing. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure was like a bolt of lightning, extremely fast. In a short while, they had flown more than 100,000 miles. Along the way, Lu Ming saw more than 10 halls in the sky. There were indeed many palaces in this world. All of a sudden, Lu Ming looked in front of him. There was a blood-red pillar of light that shot into the sky. It was obvious that someone had obtained more than 6 keys, which was why the blood-red light pillar was activated. I don't know if little Qing is there, let's go take a look. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He took a step forward and flew in that direction. After flying for a while, Lu Ming saw that there were other paragons flying in that direction from other directions. Clearly, the others had also seen the light pillar. Someone has obtained more than 6 keys. Kill them. Quick, don't let others get there first. A series of voices rang out. Lu Ming took a casual glance and saw no less than 10 young men flying towards the blood-red light pillar. Lion City. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Among these people, he saw Shadu. Shadu's aura was at the 4th level of the spiritual god realm. It was obvious that he had also broken through to the 1st level during this period of time. In front of them, on the peak of a mountain, everyone saw a young man in blue robes. Above his head, there were 7 blood-red keys. It's him. This is the person. He's only at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual god realm. This person is mine. It's mine. As soon as they sensed the young man's cultivation, many people's eyes lit up. This time, nearly 1,000 young geniuses had entered. The ones with the weakest cultivation were even at the 2nd and 3rd level of the spiritual god realm. This person was at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual god realm. If he was lucky, he would really obtain 7 keys. Their eyes were naturally burning with desire. If they could kill this person and obtain his 7 keys, they would be able to easily obtain the 9 keys and enter the palace in the sky to obtain the fortune. The blue-robed youth's expression changed drastically when he saw so many people. He turned around and fled. Where should we go? It's too late to escape. A series of cold shouts rang out, and more than a dozen figures chased after the blue-robed young man. Lu Ming frowned. He could vaguely sense that something was not right. However, he was not afraid and chased after them from a distance. A moment later, the young man in blue escaped into a valley. Suddenly dash. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 7 to 8 young men in blue suddenly flew out of the valley. Each of them had a powerful aura and a cold gaze. Many of them had 5 or 4 blood-colored keys floating above their heads. Haha, so many big fish. I'm rich. These people laughed loudly. Not good, we've been tricked. Let's go. The faces of those young men who were originally chasing changed greatly. They knew that they had fallen into a trap. The peak 4th level spiritual god realm youth in blue was only bait. He had deliberately obtained the 7 keys to lure others to kill him, and then be led into his trap. It's too late to leave now. A few blue-shirted youths sneered. Their bodies revealed a powerful aura. 2 of them had even reached the terrifying level of the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. They were very fast. They stepped into the air and surrounded Lu Ming and the rest. 7th level spiritual god realm. It's over. We're dead. Some people were terrified. The Lion City was in the same state. It was terrified and wanted to escape, but it was surrounded by the young man in blue from all directions. Ah! Lu Ming. Shadu turned around and saw Lu Ming. Previously, his attention had been on the young man in blue and he did not see Lu Ming. Now, he finally saw him. A look of shock flashed in his eyes. 7 days ago, he saw with his own eyes that Lu Ming was surrounded by Silivera wings and brutal wind. He thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure. He did not expect that Lu Ming was still alive and well. However, there was no time to be surprised. Escaping was more important. Die. The 7 young men in blue attacked, and sword light burst out. Instantly, a series of screams rang out as 5 young men were killed in an instant. The remaining few tried their best to resist and finally managed to block the attack. Shadu quivered a little, and he dodged a move. Bang! Lu Ming waved his palm and destroyed one of the sword chi. Kill! 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 2 cold shouts rang out. The 2 7th-level spiritual god realm blue-robed young men made their moves. The sword light was like lightning, instantly killing another 2 young men. Chapter 1235. 1235 Seeking help from Lu Ming. Shadu and the other young man were lucky enough to survive, but they were screaming in fear. They were no match for the 2 7th-level spiritual god realm blue-robed youths. They were too strong and could crush them. No, I don't want to die. Shadu roared in his heart. He was extremely anxious and his mind was rapidly thinking of countermeasures. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Lu Ming. 7 days ago, Lu Ming was surrounded by Silivera wings and brutal wind. However, he was still alive and well. Lu Ming might be able to save him. Lu Ming, save me, save me. He quickly rushed toward Lu Ming and shouted. Why should I save you? Lu Ming sneered. Whoosh. At this moment, a youth at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm made his move. A sword light shot towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming threw a punch and dispersed the sword light. The 7th level spiritual god realm youth in blue frowned, while Shadu's eyes lit up. Lu Ming could block the attack of a 7th level spiritual god. At this moment, it was as if Shadu had grabbed onto a life-saving straw. We come from the same place, the same continent. At this moment, we must work together, Lionheart shouted. United. 7 days ago, when I was trapped, why didn't I see you working together? Lu Ming sneered. 7 days ago, Lu Ming had also caught a glimpse of Shadu's figure from the corner of his eye. At that time, Shadu had escaped faster than anyone else and even gloated at his misfortune. Now, he needed his help. Wouldn't that be laughable? I'm weak, Lionheart shouted. What's the point of keeping trash with low strength in this world? Lu Ming smiled faintly. He moved and left Lion City. No, please save me. Seeing Lu Ming leave, the lion was so scared that it almost peed its pants. It wailed, Lu Ming, save me. As long as you save me, I'm willing to be your mount. I'm not interested in a useless mount like you, Lu Ming said. Die. At that moment, a youth in blue at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm approached Lion City and slashed out with his sword. No. The lion roared unwillingly and fought with all its might, but it was useless. Its head was cut off by a sword. Lion City, dead. At that moment, Lu Ming was the only one left among the youths who were surrounded. Let's join forces. This person's combat strength doesn't seem weak. A 7th level spiritual god realm blue-robed youth spoke. Get lost, I won't kill you. Lu Ming did not see Xian Yanqing. He was a little disappointed and wanted to leave. Since you've seen us attack, you still want to leave? You're really naive. A 7th level spiritual god realm blue-robed youth sneered. They came from a famous continent. However, if they used such an act to kill other geniuses and word got out, it would be bad for their reputation. Therefore, Lu Ming had to die. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Let's attack together, kill this person, and leave this place quickly. Another person coldly spoke. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 8 sword gleams shot toward Lu Ming, covering his entire body. Roar, roar. Lu Ming burst out with 8 streams of dragon energy and threw 8 punches in a row. The 8 fist forces struck out and the 8 sword lights instantly collapsed. However, the fist forces did not stop and continued to attack. 2 young men with weak cultivation were directly penetrated by the fist force. The remaining 4 people spat out mouthfuls of blood and retreated with heavy injuries. Even the 2 7th level spiritual god realm geniuses retreated frantically, their expressions changing. Not good, this person is too strong. Let's retreat. Run. One of the 7th level spiritual god realm geniuses shouted in fear, trying to escape. Kill. Lu Ming stepped forward, and the radiance of his fist enveloped the remaining 6 people. A few consecutive screams were heard, and the remaining young men in blue were all killed. Even the 2 7th level spiritual god realm existences could only withstand a few more moves before they were killed. In just a few moments, more than a dozen Heaven's favorites had died in this place. These Heaven's Pride experts stood at the peak of their respective continents. They looked down on their peers and looked down on invincible figures. They had awakened 9th level divine level bloodlines. In the future, it was a sure thing that they would become emperors. But here, their lives were like grass, constantly being reaped. Lu Ming was even more worried about Xian Yanqing's safety. Buzz. Above Lu Ming's head, 9 blood-red keys were suspended. A beam of light shot into the sky. However, Lu Ming was not in the mood to pay attention to it. He did not have the time to open a hall and obtain the opportunities inside. He only wanted to find Xian Yanqing first. Buzz. He took a step forward and used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps to the extreme as he flew into the distance. His speed was extremely fast, like a graceful swan, like a bolt of lightning, flashing through the air. What's that? A bloodlight. It looks like a blood-red light pillar. Above Lu Ming's head, there was a blood-red light beam. As Lu Ming flew at high speed, it was like a huge blood-red iron rod sweeping across the void, attracting the attention of many people. However, many people had only just seen it when the blood-red light pillar had already gone far away. It was simply too fast. Lu Ming activated his spiritual sense to the maximum and spread it out in all directions, looking for Xian Yanqing's whereabouts. Fortunately, this small world was not very big. Very soon, Lu Ming reached the end. There was a chaotic void in front of him. Lu Ming changed his direction and continued his search. In the sky above a lake, an intense battle was taking place. 2 experts in the 7th level of the spiritual god realm were fighting a beautiful woman together. The woman was Xian Yanqing. There were 5 blood-colored keys above Xian Yanqing's head. As for the 2 youths at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm, they each had 5 blood-colored keys. The 2 7th level spiritual god realm experts couldn't take down Xian Yanqing for a while. After more than 7 days, Xian Yanqing's cultivation had improved again and reached the peak of the 6th level spiritual god realm. However, her combat strength was extremely terrifying and she could fight 2 7th level spiritual god realm geniuses alone. Buzz. Demonic chi seethed from Xian Yanqing's body and formed terrifying demonic palm prints that blasted toward the other 7th level spiritual god realm expert. The battle between the 2 of them was difficult to determine. Not far from the battlefield, there were 3 other figures. One of them was a burly young man with a huge golden ring on his nose. He crossed his arms and watched quietly. On the side, 2 other young men stood respectfully beside him. I didn't expect that a woman who didn't master martial techniques of creation would have such combat strength. It's rare. The young man with a pair of round nose rings said as he looked at Xian Yanqing's beautiful face. His eyes were burning with passion. This woman is indeed powerful. If young Master Niu can capture her, you can take her as your concubine. On the side, a young man revealed a flattering smile and flattered. The young man with a pair of round nose rings seemed to be moved. Yes, let's wait and see. Damn it, who is this woman? She actually has such combat strength. We have to take her down as soon as possible. We can't be underestimated by young Master Niu. One of the young men who was attacking Xian Yanqing growled in his heart. The 2 of them gritted their teeth and attacked Xian Yanqing with all their might. For a moment, the demonic chi around Xian Yanqing was suppressed and he was at a disadvantage. Chapter 1236. 1236 Chapter 1236 Turn him into a dead bull. Although Xian Yanqing was at a disadvantage, his expression was calm. The demonic chi on her body slowly receded, covering her body like a battle armor. God-destroying demon sword. Suddenly, Xian Yanqing's glabella lit up, and a black demonic sword flew out, slashing down at one of the 7th level spiritual god realm experts. The opponent tried to defend himself, but Xian Yanqing's demonic sword was like an illusion. It cut through the opponent's attack and layers of defense, cutting off the opponent's brow. There were no injuries, but the man's eyes suddenly widened, revealing an expression of shock. But the next moment, his eyes lost focus and his body fell down. He was dead. This person was killed by Xian Yanqing with one strike. Buzz. After killing this person, Xian Yanqing controlled the demonic sword and slashed horizontally across another person's body. There was still no wound, but the man screamed and his body trembled. He retreated madly, his aura dispirited as if he had been seriously injured. What a pity, Xian Yanqing muttered. Then, her body trembled and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was pale. Clearly, that move just now had also caused a great burden on her. How could that be? The 2 people beside the young man with a pair of nose rings were dumbfounded. Destroying a god's soul, what a powerful technique. The young man with the round nose ring had a serious expression on his face, but the light in his eyes was even more intense. You, get lost, you useless thing. The young man with a nose ring stepped forward and glanced at the injured young man. He scolded him coldly. The young man gritted his teeth, but he did not dare to refute. This young man with a nose ring was one of the 3 most powerful heaven's favorites of the Western deity palace. He was extremely powerful and cruel, so he didn't dare to argue with him. Little girl, just surrender. Although you have some skills, in front of me, you have no power to resist. The young man with a round nose ring walked towards Xian Yanqing step by step. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. The 8th level of the spiritual god realm, Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed with determination. This young man with a nose ring gave her immense pressure, but it was impossible for her to surrender. Xian Yanqing's body moved and retreated like a ray of demonic light. You can't escape from me. The young man with a ring on his nose didn't panic. With a flash of lightning, his body seemed to have turned into a bolt of lightning. He cut through the void and approached Xian Yanqing. Whoosh! At the same time, the young man with the round nose ring waved his hand and a chain made of lightning shot towards Xian Yanqing. Sky Devil Force Field. Xian Yanqing shouted and activated the Sky Demon Power Field. At the same time, he used his bloodline fusion to increase the power of the Sky Demon Power Field to the maximum. The chains of lightning suddenly began to slow down in the field. What a wonderful force field! It has a trace of the power of a domain. Unfortunately, your cultivation base is too weak. The young man's eyes turned cold. Lightning flashed all over his body. The lightning chain broke the Sky Demon force field in half and quickly wrapped around Xian Yanqing. Great demonic palm. Xian Yanqing's heavenly demon bloodline sent out a few palm prints in a row, but they exploded after being hit by the lightning chains. Xian Yanqing's face turned even paler and he spat out another mouthful of blood. I've said it before, you don't have the power to resist me, the young man with a nose ring said coldly with an arrogant expression. God-destroying demon sword. Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth. Ignoring her injuries, she unleashed the god-destroying demon sword with all her might. Her glabella glowed, and a black sword light cut through the void, slashing toward the young man with the round nose rings. In the face of this sword, the young man with the nose in a ring had a slightly serious expression on his face, and the power of lightning on his body intensified. 9 Thunder Sword. The young man with the nose ring slashed his palm down. A sword with lightning struck out and clashed with Xian Yanqing's demonic sword. With a bang, the 9 Thunder Sword emitted a blazing light, hoping to block the demonic sword. However, in the end, it only blocked a part of it. The remaining part continued to slash towards the young man with the nose ring. Block it. The young man with the nose ring was covered in lightning, forming a lightning armor that blocked the demonic sword. In the end, the demonic sword was weakened layer by layer, and only a trace of it entered the young man's body. The young man's body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning, and he took a step back. Damn it! How dare you hurt my soul? The man with the nose ring growled, his face extremely gloomy. Xian Yanqing's body trembled as she retreated and spat out another mouthful of blood. Little girl, I didn't want to hurt you, but you asked for it. The young man with a ring on his nose shouted coldly. His body was surrounded by lightning as he took a few steps forward and approached Xian Yanqing. Looming. Xian Yanqing sighed in his heart. Then, his eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Even if she were to die, she would not let herself fall into the hands of the young man with a nose ring. Ah! What's that? Suddenly, a young man looked into the distance and exclaimed. The young man with a pair of nose rings and Xian Yanqing looked over subconsciously. He saw a blood-red light pillar moving at a terrifying speed in that direction. It was as if a blood-red stick had cut through the void. Boom! 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 The sound of the space being shattered could be heard. They saw a young man flying towards them at a terrifying speed. He was so fast that he even shattered the space. Looming! Xian Yanqing exclaimed. The person was Looming. Stop! A young man stepped forward and blocked Looming's way. Get lost! Looming shouted coldly and threw a punch. The terrifying fist force enveloped the young man's body with an unstoppable force. This! The young man's pupils dilated. The next moment, He screamed and his body exploded in the air. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure flashed and he appeared beside Xian Yanqing. Little Qing, you're injured. Lu Ming's heart ached when he saw Xian Yanqing's pale face and the blood at the corner of his mouth. However, he also heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Xian Yanqing was fine. Lu Ming, I'm fine. Xian Yanqing's smile was so beautiful that the young man with a pair of nose rings was stunned. Little Qing, don't worry. I will avenge you. Lu Ming reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of Xian Yanqing's mouth. Seeing the intimate expressions on Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's faces, the young man with the nose ring had a look of jealousy in his eyes. He shouted coldly, "Brat, you dare to kill my people and stand beside my woman. You're looking for death. Your woman." Lu Ming's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He looked at the young man with the nose ring and said, "I'll definitely kill you just because of what you said. Ha ha ha, kill me? Kid, with your abilities." The young man laughed. Lu Ming, be careful. This man is one of the 3 strongest heaven's favorites of the Western deity palace, Lei Niu. Xian Yanqing whispered. Don't worry, he'll become a dead bull very soon. Lu Ming sneered. He stepped forward and charged at the thunderbolt bull. Chapter 1237. 1237 Chapter 1237 Meeting up with Xian Yanqing. Die. Go. The thunder bull shouted coldly. With a wave of its hand, a chain of lightning flew out and wrapped around Lu Ming. Roar. 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 A dragon's roar came from within Lu Ming's body. At that moment, Lu Ming had burst out with 9 streams of dragon energy. This person was one of the 3 most powerful heaven's favorites of the Western deity palace. He was at the same level as the ice dragon and had most likely mastered martial arts techniques of creation. Lu Ming naturally would not be careless. 9 dragon energies burst out at once. Boom! As he punched out, the space within dozens of miles exploded and turned into nothingness. The lightning chains of the lightning ball also crumbled, and a terrifying fist force continued toward the lightning ball. The lightning ball's expression changed drastically. The power of Lu Ming's punch was too shocking and far exceeded its expectations. 9 Thunder Sword. A huge sword of lightning appeared in the bull's hand and it slashed down. Boom! The sword of lightning and Lu Ming's fist force collided. The force spread in all directions and the sky was filled with lightning. Half of the sky was filled with endless lightning, as if the punishment of heaven had descended. It's indeed a martial technique of conception. It's also a martial technique of thunder conception, just like the thunder god strike. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The thunder ball could use the will of thunder to a terrifying level. There was nothing else it could do except thunder martial techniques. Kill. The thunder ball roared and charged at Lu Ming with the thunder sword in its hand. Lu Ming's power made him want to kill him. Kill. Lu Ming charged at the thunder ball as well, surrounded by the 5-colored will. With a wave of his hand, the terrifying power of the prison-suppressing heaven technique was unleashed. Boom! Lu Ming threw another punch at the 9 Thunder Sword. The land of lightning was like the might of the heavens, but Lu Ming was not afraid of it. He broke through the might with force and rushed up, crushing the 9 Thunder Sword. The lightning bull's expression was gloomy. Lu Ming's cultivation was clearly only at the early stage of the 7th level spiritual god realm. His cultivation was 1 level lower than his, but he could actually fight with him. This was hard for him to accept. He was an unparalleled prodigy and was invincible among those of the same level. No one had ever been able to fight him with a cultivation level lower than his. Kill, kill, he roared. 9 colors appeared on the thunder sword in his hand. The power of the 9 different thunderbolts converged, making it even more terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming continued to punch. On his fist, the faint shadow of a stone tablet could be seen. The prison-suppressing heaven technique and the thunder battle sword clashed head-on, shaking the world. Kaila. A lightning bolt as thick as an arm was struck away, falling on a mountain in the distance. Under the power of the lightning, the 1,000-mile-long mountain exploded, turning into broken stones and ashes that scattered everywhere. Boom! A fist force landed on the ground, creating an immeasurably deep hole. Hot lava gushed out from the ground. The two of them exchanged more than a dozen moves in a row, and it was difficult to determine the winner. Buzz! The thunder bull suddenly let out a loud roar. Its body grew rapidly and finally turned into a giant bull the size of a mountain. Its body was covered in lightning. The thunder bull was a demon. This was his true form. Bang! Bang! The giant lightning bull stood in the air and its two sharp horns were like heavenly blades. Buzz! Buzz! The two sharp horns glowed and two sabers condensed from lightning slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming threw two punches and sent the two thunder battle sabers flying. However, his body trembled slightly and he took 2 steps back. The demons were stronger in their true forms. 9 thunder sword, 10,000 sword kill, thunder bull. The thunder bull shouted. The power of thunder on its body became even more shocking. Endless thunder and lightning filled the air. Some of them were even thicker than a water tank. With the thunder bull as the center, they shot out and danced in the sky. Lu Ming. Not far away, Xian Yanqing's demonic qi was spread out to resist the force outside. His face was full of worry. Who is this person? He actually forced young Master Niu to use his strongest combat power. In the distance, there were 2 young men who were shocked by this scene. On the body of the thunder bull, endless lightning gathered and turned into 9 colored combat swords, which were aimed at Lu Ming. This was the power of martial techniques of intent. It could kill everything like a lightning tribulation and destroy all life. Roar! At this moment, Lu Ming transformed into 9 dragons. The dragons soared to the 9 heavens and his 9 dragon claws stomped out continuously. The sky trembled, and a dense explosion rang out. The thunder battle swords exploded in the air one after another. Kill! The 9 dragons strode forward and charged at the thunder bull, clawing at it. Bang! The dragon's claw hit the thunder bull's body, but it was blocked. First, it was the thunder armor. It broke through the thunder armor and landed on the thunder bull. It was like hitting a drum. With a bang, the dragon's claw was bounced off. At the same time, the thunder bull's horns glowed and a bolt of lightning struck Lu Ming at the speed of light. However, it was blocked by Lu Ming's heavy defenses. Buzz! Roar! A dragon and a bull fought in the air, as if they had returned to prehistoric times. After a dozen moves, it was difficult to determine the winner. Kid, let's fight again next time. The more the lightning bull fought, the more shocked it became. It felt that Lu Ming's strength was endless. Every time he was hit by Lu Ming's dragon claws, his body would hurt. He couldn't help but want to retreat. You want to leave? Did I let you? Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. Brat, you may be strong, but I'm not weak either. You can't do anything to me. The thunder bull snorted. Is that so? Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. In the next moment, a drop of blood appeared, and a layer of blood-red light appeared on the 9 dragons' bodies. The 3rd bloodline. As soon as the bloodlight appeared, the power of the 9 dragons suddenly increased. They clawed out and broke the defense of the thunder bull, leaving a deep claw mark on its body. Blood flowed out. You! The thunder bull was shocked and furious. It did not expect that Lu Ming had still held back. Buzz! The thunder bull roared and wanted to charge out. Bang! Each step of the 9 dragons could pierce through the sky. The thunderbolts on the thunder bull's body were scattered, leaving wounds on its body. Blood flowed out, and even its bones were exposed. The lightning bull roared madly. It felt a chill in its heart. Lu Ming was too powerful and could threaten its life. He charged out madly. Kill! Lu Ming roared. His 9 dragon claws grabbed one of the thunder bull's front legs and tore it apart with all his might. With a hiss, one of the thunder bull's front legs was torn off by Lu Ming. The lightning bull wailed. Thunder escape! He let out a long roar, and streams of blood wrapped around his body. Then, the thunder bull's body shrank rapidly, turning into a bolt of lightning. In a flash, it rushed thousands of miles away, and with another flash, it disappeared into the distance. So fast. Lu Ming frowned. It was too late to give chase. This lightning bull's life-saving methods were not bad. Young Master Niu has lost. Go, quickly go. The remaining 2 people screamed in horror and ran for their lives. However, there was a flash of light and Lu Ming appeared in front of them. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming slapped them twice. The 2 of them screamed in pain and retreated while vomiting blood. Little Qing, I'll let you kill these 2. Lu Ming said. Spare me. The 2 of them wanted to beg for mercy, but a demonic sword flashed, and their heads flew far away. Dragon Emperor's Myriad Journeys. Chapter 1238. 1238 Chapter 1238 A domain solidifying pill. After killing the 2, a total of 9 keys appeared above Xianyanqing's head. A blood-red light pillar shot into the sky. It shone with the blood-colored light pillar above Lu Ming's head. Little Qing, let's go. Let's go open that palace together. Lu Ming walked towards Xianyanqing. Xianyanqing nodded, and the 2 of them flew side by side to the nearest palace. Soon, a palace appeared in their field of vision. However, the 2 of them and the 2 blood-red light pillars were too eye-catching. Buzz! Whoosh! With a whooshing sound, 7 or 8 young experts flew over from all directions, their eyes burning with passion. 9 for each of you. Some people's eyes lit up. Get lost. Lu Ming threw a punch at the strongest person. A fist force streaked across the sky and struck towards that person. The terrifying pressure scared the man out of his wits. He tried his best to set up a defense, but in the end, he was still hit by Lu Ming's punch and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying dozens of miles. Hiss hiss hiss. Gasps of shock could be heard. Everyone recognized the person just now. He was a heaven's favorite who had set foot on the 36 Vector peaks. His cultivation was at the peak of the 7th level of the spiritual god realm, but he was actually beaten by Lu Ming to the point of spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. This made everyone extremely frightened. A monster, let's go, run. The rest of the people scattered and fled, wishing they had 2 more legs. Not long after, not a single one of them was left. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered and went to the hall with Xianyanqing. There was also a stone tablet in front of the palace's door. There were 9 keyholes on the stone tablet. Little Qing, you first. Lu Ming said. Xianyanqing nodded. With a thought, 9 blood-colored keys flew into the keyhole, and the door opened. Lu Ming, I'll go in first and wait for you. Xianyanqing said. I don't know if 2 people can enter in succession. You go in first. If I don't, it means that I went to another hall. You don't have to wait for me, Lu Ming said. Xianyanqing nodded and stepped through the door. After Xianyanqing stepped in, the door closed automatically. I don't know if it's still useful. Lu Ming had an idea and the 9 keys flew toward the 9 keyholes. Unfortunately, the 9 keys stopped outside and could not enter at all. It's indeed useless. Only one person can enter one palace at a time. Lu Ming shook his head and left. Not long after, he found another hall. There was obviously no one in this hall. Lu Ming used 9 keys to open the door of the hall and stepped in. The scene inside the palace was almost the same as the last time he saw it. There were also a few she levers. On the she levers, there were balls of light. Under the balls of light, there were different symbols. Lu Ming sized it up carefully, thinking about what to choose. For the martial techniques of creation, he had the Thunder God strike for the time being. If he chose another one, he would have no time to practice it. One Thunder God strike was enough for Lu Ming to comprehend. If he could cultivate Thunder God strike to the highest level, its power would be shocking. It would be enough for the time being. Learning one more wouldn't be of much use. Lu Ming pondered for a while and decided to choose a type of pill. If it could be placed together with martial techniques of creation, it would presumably not be bad. However, the pill symbols all looked the same. It was impossible to distinguish what kind of pill it was, so he could only choose at will. Lu Ming casually grabbed one of the light orbs. The light orbs shattered and a jade bottle appeared in his hands. Domain solidifying pill. On the jade bottle, there was a label with 3 words written on it. It's actually a domain solidifying pill. Lu Ming's eyes shone with a fiery glow and his heart could not help but beat wildly. He had heard of the domain solidifying pill before, but it did not exist in the divine wilderness continent. It was only a legend. If a great circle spiritual god wanted to advance another step, he would have to transform his intent into a domain. However, this step was undoubtedly extremely difficult, astonishingly difficult. If one could condense an embryonic stage domain, they would be considered supreme martial artists. However, if a great circle spiritual god consumed the domain solidifying pill, it would greatly increase the chances of strengthening the embryonic form of a domain and even make it easier to form a complete domain. This was a priceless treasure, and its value was incalculable. The Tiantian sect was indeed a major power in the Yuan continent. They could even casually take out the domain solidifying pill as a reward. Or perhaps, in the eyes of the heavenly god sect, a peerless divine pill like the domain solidifying pill was only rare and ordinary. However, to Lu Ming, it was definitely a supreme divine pill. If Lu Ming's cultivation level reached the great circle of the spiritual god stage, this domain solidifying pill would help him to quickly reach the supreme level. Lu Ming kept it carefully and tried to open the other orbs. Indeed, none of them could be opened. "I'm going to see little Qing." Lu Ming did not stop. He left the hall and went to the hall that Xian Yanqing had entered. However, the door to Xian Yanqing's palace was closed, and he didn't come out. Lu Ming stopped at a nearby mountain peak and asked Dandan to keep an eye on him from the outside. He entered the mountain and river diagram and sat under the path understanding ancient tree to comprehend the thunder god strike. In this small world, the slaughter continued. One by one, the top geniuses of their respective continents were killed here, and they would forever remain in this land. Some of the weaker ones didn't even dare to show their faces and looked for a safe place to hide. As for the stronger ones, they hunted everywhere. It was a scene of blood and slaughter. In a valley, Long Chen transformed into an Archean dragon-esque elephant and howled at the sky. He took a step forward and killed 2 7th-level spiritual god realm experts. Now, Long Chen's cultivation had also entered the 7th level of the spiritual god realm, and his combat strength was even more terrifying. After that, Long Chen gathered all 9 keys and stepped into a palace. On a large river, the ice dragon waved his hand and sealed a few young experts in ice. He also gathered 9 keys and entered a palace. Xian Yanjuan's body was holy and pure, and a milky white light filled the air. 9 keys were floating above her head. Not far away from her was the 3 strongest heaven's favorites of the South God Palace, Wang Zhen. "Miss Nianjuan, you can go in first. I'll go to another hall," Wang Zhen said. "Many thanks, young Master Wang." Xian Yanjuan nodded and stepped into a palace. Wang Zhen's eyes glowed with a fiery light as he walked towards the other palaces. Such scenes were happening all over the small world. Top geniuses like Ji Hongchen had all gathered 9 keys and entered the palace to obtain their own opportunities. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Half a month's time was almost up. After 7 days of comprehension, the Thunder God strike had made great progress, but it would still take some time to cultivate to the 2nd level. At this moment, they received news that Xian Yanqing had come out. Lu Ming exited the mountain and river diagram and saw Xian Yanqing standing in front of the hall, looking around. Xian Yanqing smiled when he saw Lu Ming flying over. "Little Qing, what did you get?" Lu Ming asked. "It's a pill." Xian Yanqing explained that she had obtained the inheritance of a supreme powerhouse in the divine ruins. There were a few martial techniques related to the demonic Tao intent. Therefore, Xian Yanqing didn't need to choose a technique of creation. Instead, he chose the pill. Chapter 1239. 1239 Chapter 1239 Interrogation. I chose the demonic energy pill. I didn't expect that my bloodline would appear immediately after I got it and swallow it. I could only start refining it. I didn't expect that this cultivation would last 7 days, Xian Yanqing explained. Lu Ming nodded. No wonder Xian Yanqing had stayed in the hall for 7 days. "Little Qing, your cultivation." Lu Ming studied Xian Yanqing carefully. He could feel that Xian Yanqing's true essence fluctuation was extremely strong. After refining the demonic vitality pill, my cultivation has broken through from the peak of the 6th level spiritual god realm to the 7th level spiritual god realm in one go. Xian Yanqing said. 7th level spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The 7th level of the spiritual god realm was the pinnacle of all the geniuses present. Xian Yanqing was able to break through to the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. With his own combat strength, he had no worries about protecting himself. Lu Ming was naturally overjoyed. There was less than a day to go before the half-month deadline. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went around. If they ran into anyone, Lu Ming did not mind killing them and snatching the key. However, after flying for a while, they didn't meet a single person. Many of those with lower cultivations had gone into hiding during this period of time, and it was hard to find them. Time passed quickly. Buzz. Suddenly, the space trembled, and Lu Ming felt the space around him tighten. He disappeared from there, and the next moment, he appeared in the ancient city of the divine ruins, on top of the 36 vector peaks. Xian Yanqing also appeared beside him. Countless people were watching from all directions. He's out. The first round is over. Someone exclaimed. In the sky above the 36 Qiangang peaks, people kept appearing and disappearing. Soon, more than 500 people appeared in the sky. But after that, no one else appeared. There were only 500 people left. Many people's hearts trembled. Needless to say, the remaining people would definitely be left inside forever. Out of nearly 1,000 people, only 500 came out. The death rate was close to half. Such a death rate was really too high. It was shocking. Thunderball, you lost an arm. Who has the strength to do that? A voice rang out. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man with a ring on his nose. One of his arms was missing and his face was extremely gloomy. Many heaven's favorites, including the sovereigns, also looked at the lightning ball. Lei Niu is one of the 3 most powerful experts of the Western Deity Palace, but one of his arms was actually broken by someone. Who was it? Do you have such strength? Could it be the strongest person from the other 3 divine palaces? Or the ones who are ranked second on the continent? He's really powerful. The Thunderbull's combat strength is already terrifying. I once saw him easily kill 3 great circle spiritual god existences. He could even contend with a supreme being for a while, but one of his arms was actually cut off. The surroundings were filled with discussion and shock. This made the lightning bull's face even gloomier. He swept his gaze around and finally landed on Lu Ming. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. Then, he snorted coldly and walked towards the Western Deity Palace. The others glanced at each other and flew in 4 different directions. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing came to the South God Palace. The black-robed middle-aged man's gaze swept across them, and his face turned gloomy. The number of heaven's favorites from the South God Palace had been reduced by half. The losses were too great. One should know that as long as these Heaven's Pride experts didn't die, they would definitely become emperors in the future, and not ordinary emperors at that. So many people died. Lu Ming was also observing in secret. Almost every continent had people dying in battle. In the Divine Wilderness continent, Lu Ming saw Long Chen, Xian Yanjuan, Yang Potian, the Heartless Monk, the Moonless Bodhisattva, and Ming Zi. Like the 3-headed hellhound, Kong Lin was no longer there. Clearly, he had already died in battle. Including Lion City, the Divine Wilderness continent had lost 3 elites. Such losses were considered small. Some continents were almost completely extinct. For example, the 8th-ranked genius, Thai mainland, had lost 70% to 80% of his people. Even the 2nd-ranked genius had died. As for the Shani continent, it was even more miserable. Only 2 or 3 people were left, looking at each other. As for the White Feather continent, they had also suffered heavy losses. Buzz. Buzz. All of a sudden, 2 silhouettes in feather cloaks appeared on both sides of Lu Ming. Their cold killing intent enveloped Lu Ming. What's going on? The monk chanted the name of Buddha. The rest of the people from the South God Palace also looked at the 2 young men in feather clothes. Of the 2 young men, One was wearing a golden feather coat and the other was wearing a pair of black wings. Goldwing, Godwing, what are you two doing? Ji Hongchen furrowed his brows and asked. He killed Silevera Wing. Silevera Wing left a special aura on him. Only the wings can feel it. The young man in the golden feather clothes said coldly. What? He killed Silevera Wing? He actually managed to kill Silevera Wing? On the side of the South God Palace, many geniuses were puzzled. Silevera Wing was one of the top 3 heavens favorites of the White Feather Continent. He had reached the 36 Vector Peaks and had a high cultivation level and powerful combat strength. How could this person from the divine wilderness continent kill him? Ji Hongchen frowned and did not continue to speak. On the other hand, Wang Zhan and Xian Yanjuan were gloating. That's right. I killed Silevera Wing. At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. Since he had been discovered, there was nothing to hide. How dare you kill the pride of the White Feather Continent? Tell me, what despicable method did you use to sneak attack? I don't believe that a piece of trash from the divine wilderness continent like you can kill Silevera Wing. Shut up. Golden Wing coldly rebuked. We're all on the side of the South God Palace, but you actually fought among yourself and killed the geniuses of the White Feather Continent to weaken the strength of the South God Palace. Also, who is your helper? Could it be someone from another divine wilderness continent? The black-winged divine wing spoke as his cold gaze swept across the rest of the divine wilderness continent. Xian Yanjuan, Ming Zi, Yang Potian, and the others' faces turned ugly. I have nothing to do with him. I have always been with young Master Wang Zhan, Xian Yanjuan explained. Yes, I can testify that Miss Nianqing has nothing to do with this matter. Wang Zhan opened his mouth and explained. I also have nothing to do with him. I have a grudge against him. Yang Potian and Ming Zi spoke one after another, trying to draw a clear line between them and Lu Ming. The unscrupulous monk and moonless bodhisattva did not say anything. Xian Yanqing stood close to Lu Ming. Bang! At this moment, Long Chen took a step forward and stood beside Lu Ming. Xian Yanjuan, Yang Potian, and the others' faces changed. Long Chen was actually standing beside Lu Ming. We don't need anyone else to kill Silevera Wing. We can kill him with a flip of our hands. Lu Ming said with a calm expression. Also, you guys need to be clear on one thing. Silevera Wing was the one who wanted to kill me first. You guys don't need to slander me for no reason. It's useless. Nonsense. Don't try to quibble. Since you've admitted that you killed Silevera Wing, life for life. Now, kneel down and admit your crimes. Your accomplices are all guilty. Kneel down and destroy your cultivation. When the selection of disciples of the deity sect is over, I will take you back to the White Feather Continent and sentence you. Golden Wing announced. Chapter 1240. 1240 Kill him. The commotion here naturally attracted the attention of the other parties. The heavens' favorites from the other 3 divine palaces all looked over as if they were watching a show. A beast is a beast. His brain really doesn't work well. Lu Ming pursed his lips. You're looking for death. Jin Yi shouted. His eyes were cold. The other paragons of the White Feather Continent were all filled with killing intent, shrouding Lu Ming. Buzz. Golden light burst forth from the golden wings. It formed a claw with its fingers and clawed at Lu Ming, making a sharp sound as it tore through the air. Boom. Boom. Xian Yanqing and Long Chen's auras burst forth. You don't need to do anything, they're just a few beast. Lu Ming said and threw a punch. Bang. Catcher. Lu Ming's punch landed on the golden wing's claw, causing the sound of bones breaking to ring out. The golden wing cried out in pain and retreated continuously. Many people couldn't help but widen their eyes and look at this scene in disbelief. The golden-winged one was an expert who had reached the 36 Tiangang peaks. It was unbelievable that his finger bone was broken by Lu Ming with a single punch. The black-robed middle-aged man from the South God Palace had been standing quietly in the void, watching indifferently without saying a word. Kill. The golden wing's finger bone was broken by Lu Ming's punch. It flew into a rage out of humiliation and transformed into its true form, a huge golden eagle. It flapped its wings and charged at Lu Ming. At the same time, Divine Wing's eyes turned cold. He transformed into his true form and charged at Lu Ming. The two paragons who had stepped onto Fector Peak had actually joined forces to attack Lu Ming. How despicable. That's good. Bird meat that contains the bloodline of a divine beast is perfect for my meal, Lu Ming said coldly. The dragon power in his body burst out and he threw two punches. The space was compressed into a ball wherever the fist passed, and the fist flew toward the golden wings and the divine wings. Two wails were heard, and the sky was filled with golden and black feathers. With one move, Golden Wing and Divine Wing were heavily injured. Kill. Lu Ming struck the necks of the golden-winged and divine-winged birds with two consecutive palm strikes. The terrifying power exploded and the two bird heads were blown to pieces. The golden wings and the divine wings were instantly killed. Sigh sigh. Many people gasped and looked at Lu Ming in shock. Those two were prodigies who could ascend the Fector Peak. They were killed by Lu Ming just like that. It was a piece of cake. The black-robed man's eyes lit up with a flash of surprise. He had some impression of Lu Ming. Back in the Divine Wilderness continent, Lu Ming only had an 8th-level divine-level bloodline, but he had easily defeated Mu Feng and caught his attention. Hence, he made an exception and allowed Lu Ming to come to the Divine Ruins continent. Now, Lu Ming's abilities were even more shocking. Even he was shocked. As for Wang Zhen, Ji Hongchen, and the purple-haired young man, their eyes were filled with shock, astonishment, and solemnness. Lu Ming's abilities had caught their attention. Many people from the other three divine palaces were also quite shocked. Who is this person? Your combat strength is pretty good. I didn't expect that the South God Palace had hidden such a character other than those three guys. Someone spoke. He clearly regarded Lu Ming as an opponent. Among them, the lightning ball and the ice dragon snorted coldly, their expressions ugly. You killed Golden Wing and Holy Wing? A sovereign of the White Feather Continent said in a trembling voice. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the bodies of the divine wings and the golden wings. He said, "What's wrong? You want to make a move too?" No. The young man from the White Feather Continent turned pale. Lu Ming. Suddenly, a cold voice was heard. Wang Zhen stepped forward, his gaze landing on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you're too vicious. Golden Wings and Divine Wings only said a few words about you, and you killed them. Furthermore, Golden Wing and Divine Wing are the two generals of our southern deity palace. You have killed them so ruthlessly. It is obvious that you are weakening the strength of our southern deity palace. With such a temperament, you are not qualified to participate in the selection of the heavenly deity sect. In the depths of Wang Zhen's eyes, there was a glint of ruthlessness. Xian Yanjuan had told him that she didn't get along with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. He had to seize the opportunity to impress Xian Yanjuan and win his favor. He. Lu Ming looked at Wang Zhen and sneered, "Are you blind? They wanted to kill me just now. Can't I fight back and kill them? How about this, if I want to kill you, you just stand still and let me kill you." "You're quibbling," Wang Zhen said. "Who do you think you are? I don't need to quibble with you. Get lost." Lu Ming could not be bothered to talk nonsense with him and berated him directly. This caused Wang Zhen's expression to turn incomparably gloomy. Who was he? The three strongest heaven's favorites of the South God Palace. The Wang family's influence in the South God Palace was even greater than the Mu family's. Lu Ming actually dared to speak to him in this manner. "Kid, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you killed the Golden Wings and the Divine Wings. I'll let you know that there's always someone better than you," Wang Zhen said coldly, a cold killing intent rising from his body. "All right, I'm done." At this moment, the black-robed middle-aged man's voice rang out, causing Wang Zhen to stop in his tracks. The Golden Wings and the Divine Wings were at fault in this matter. They wanted to kill others, but they didn't have the ability and were killed instead. "They can't blame others," the black-robed man said. "But..." Wang Zhen wanted to continue. The black-robed middle-aged man stretched out his hand, and Wang Zhen could only swallow his words. "Brat, You're lucky today. Wang Zhen glared at Lu Ming coldly, then turned and walked to Xian Yanjuan's side. Don't worry, I'll find an opportunity to kill that brat. Xian Yanjuan nodded casually. At this moment, a powerful fluctuation spread out in the sky, and a few figures appeared. It was the silver-haired old man from the heavenly god sect and 2 middle-aged men. As for the 3 young men, they were nowhere to be seen. Alright, that's the end of the first round. Next, we'll set up the venue for the second round. It'll take half a month. Those who survived the first round, come back here after half a month. After the silver-haired old man finished his announcement, he turned around and left. Half a month later, the second round of the competition would begin. Many people's eyes were filled with anticipation. After half a month, they might be able to join the Tianshan sect. After that, the crowd dispersed and flew off in different directions. Let's go, let's roast some meat. Lu Ming laughed. The heavens' favorites from the white feather continent trembled and looked terrible. Soon, everyone returned to their residence. Half an hour later, a strong meaty aroma wafted from Lu Ming's courtyard and spread throughout the entire southern deity palace. Then, Lu Ming, you really roasted the golden wings and the divine wings. The youths from the other continents were dumbfounded. Brother Long, let's eat together. Lu Ming called out to Long Chen's room. The door opened, and Long Chen stepped in. Almsgiver Lu, I wonder if I have the fortune to eat a piece. The unscrupulous monk appeared. When he saw the 2 big birds that were roasted to a golden yellow, his eyes lit up and he almost drooled. Of course you can. Lu Ming smiled. Chapter 1241. 1241 Chapter 1241 Lightning Territory. Ha ha ha, I can't eat Almsgiver Lu's food for free. I have some top-grade wine here that goes well with this roasted meat. The heartless monk walked over and with a wave of his hand, 7 to 8 jars of wine appeared on the ground. This. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Long Chen were all stunned. How could there be such a monk in the Buddhist sect? Ha ha, then this little monk won't be polite. The unscrupulous monk laughed, and his eyes lit up. He rolled up his sleeves and tore off one of the bird's wings, then began to gnaw. Lu Ming smiled and picked up a jar of wine. He opened it and took a big gulp. The wine was thick and sweet, and it felt warm and comfortable in his stomach. Even his vital essence could be circulated more smoothly. This was truly a top-grade wine. This unscrupulous monk really knew how to enjoy himself. Then, Li Hua gulped down the wine and ate the meat. In 2 hours, 7 or 8 jars of wine were finished, and the 2 giant birds with level 9 divine beast bloodline were only left with bones. What made people even more stunned was that the unscrupulous monk didn't even let go of the bones and began to gnaw on them. This is a good thing. It's a pity to miss it. You don't have to be polite. The unscrupulous monk mumbled as he stuffed the food into his mouth. Lu Ming and the other 2 looked at each other. After another half an hour, the monk left reluctantly. Little Qing, a million miles away from the ancient city of the divine ruins, there's a thunder region. I plan on taking advantage of this half a month to go to the thunder region to cultivate intent realm martial technique. Lu Ming told Xian Yanqing his plan. Yes, I'm going to choose a martial arts technique of creation to practice. I'll practice in the mountain and river diagram for the time being. Xian Yanqing nodded. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing entered the mountain and river diagram. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged under the path understanding ancient tree. Chirping. A chubby meatball flew over and rushed into Lu Ming's arms, rubbing vigorously. It was Bubbles. During this period of time, Lu Ming had placed the bubbles in the mountain and river diagram. Now that he saw Lu Ming, the bubbles were very sticky. Little guy, I'll bring you along. Lu Ming rubbed the bubbles and then exited the mountain and river diagram. He left the South Deity Palace Mansion and headed to the west of the ancient city of the Divine Ruins. The Thunder region was to the west of the ancient city of the Divine Ruins. In a room in the Western Deity Palace, Lei Nyo's face was extremely gloomy. He looked at his empty arm and was even more furious. His killing intent was cold. The spiritual god realm could not regrow a broken arm. Only by breaking through to the martial royal realm could one regrow an arm. This wasn't a big deal. Lei Nyo was just worried that this selection by the deity sect would affect the views of the experts of the deity sect on him. At this time, a black shadow flashed, and a thin-looking old man in black appeared in the room. "Young Master Nyo, do you have any orders for me?" The black-robed old man bowed and asked. "Send a message back and ask my master to send some experts over. I'm going to find an opportunity to kill that brat." The lightning ball was filled with killing intent. "Yes." The black-robed old man bowed and accepted the order. Then, his figure moved and he left the place. "I need to find a place to recover. The Thunder region to the west of the ancient divine ruined city is a place where lightning congregates. It just so happens to be suitable for me," the lightning ball muttered to itself. To Lu Ming, the distance of 1,000,000 miles was covered in a moment. In front of him, black clouds covered the sky. The endless black clouds were rolling, and terrifying lightning bolts fell from the thunder and lightning, covering the entire sky like Silivera snakes. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder boomed, and all living things were dormant. This was a vast and boundless domain of lightning. This was the Thunder region, known as the Boundless Thunder region, because its scope was extremely vast. Buzz. Lu Ming paused for a moment before he stepped out and entered the lightning territory. Kaila. As soon as Lu Ming stepped into the lightning zone, 9 bolts of lightning as thick as an arm shot toward him. Thunder God strike. Lu Ming clenched his fist in the air and condensed bolts of lightning out of thin air, negating the few bolts of lightning that struck him. What a strong power of lightning! What a strong lightning concept! Lu Ming extended his spiritual senses and felt the space around him. It was filled with extremely dense lightning energy. This place is still too weak. Let's continue deeper. Lu Ming continued to venture deeper into the lightning territory. Along the way, there were lightning bolts striking at Lu Ming, but they were easily blocked by Lu Ming's Thunder God strike. At the same time, Lu Ming also used the power of the lightning here to comprehend the Thunder God strike. Buzz. At this moment, Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. He could feel the lightning cauldron in his sea of consciousness shaking slightly. Then, the space between his brows glowed and the lightning cauldron appeared on its own. The lightning cauldron trembled slightly and produced a powerful suction force. The surrounding lightning bolts were attracted by the lightning cauldron and flew into it, disappearing without a trace. This works too. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment, then he revealed a look of joy. Buzz. Lu Ming executed his movement technique and sprinted towards the depths of the lightning territory at top speed. The deeper one went into the thunder region, the stronger the power of the thunder and lightning would be. The strength of the thunder mentality would also be stronger, and it would be easier to comprehend. Along the way, Lu Ming also noticed a few auras. Clearly, there were other people cultivating here. Not long after, Lu Ming came to a valley. The power of lightning here was extremely strong. Endless lightning bolts rained down with a shocking aura. This is the place. Lu Ming walked into the valley and sat cross-legged, quietly comprehending the power of lightning between heaven and earth and cultivating the Thunder God strike. The lightning cauldron hovered above his head, occasionally absorbing a few huge bolts of lightning. Wisps of lightning swam around the body of the cauldron and sparkled. Chirping. Pow Pow lay lazily on Lu Ming's body, squinting its eyes and sizing up the surroundings. Lightning is destruction. It is the punishment of the heavens. Lu Ming carefully comprehended and muttered. He was experiencing the essence of the power of lightning. The power of thunder and lightning was the power of divine punishment. It feared everything and its power was extremely terrifying. However, it was also extremely difficult to comprehend its essence. In the past, Lu Ming had only used it roughly and did not explore it in depth. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been cultivating in the valley for 3 days. He had learned a lot in the past 3 days. He was very close to the second level of Thunder God strike and could break through at any time. However, at this moment, Lu Ming felt that the lightning in the valley was not powerful enough. He needed stronger lightning power to cultivate. Lu Ming got up and walked out of the valley, continuing to venture deeper. 2 hours later, Lu Ming arrived in front of a majestic mountain. In the sky above the mountain, there were endless lightning and thunder. The power of the lightning was extremely rich. However, Lu Ming sensed that many cave abodes had been opened up in the mountains, and there were auras entrenched there. It was obvious that experts were cultivating there. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and was about to turn around and leave. He did not want to stay any longer. Whoosh! Suddenly, a bolt of lightning shot out from the mountain. An elder in green appeared in front of Lu Ming, blocking his way. At the same time, he stared at the lightning cauldron above Lu Ming's head with a burning gaze. Chapter 1242. 1242 Chapter 1242 Stealing Treasures. What a wondrous lightning treasure. Boy, give this lightning cauldron to this old man and you can get lost. The azure-robed elder said coolly. His body emitted a powerful aura. It was the aura of a great circle of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that the other party had his eyes on his lightning cauldron. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. A mere perfect stage spiritual god. Lu Ming did not care about him at all. Since the other party was seeking death, he did not mind sending him on his way. Brat, didn't you hear me talking to you? Hand over the lightning cauldron and get lost. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave when this old man makes his move. The azure-robed elder berated. You can try. Lu Ming replied indifferently. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're only at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. Do you think you can compete with me? Since you're so stubborn, I'll send you on your way. The green-robed elder's expression turned cold, and his body began to exude a cold killing intent. Buzz. 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 Right at this moment, a few more powerful auras rose up from that large mountain. A total of 3 people flew out from the mountain and appeared around Lu Ming, surrounding him. All of them were at the great circle of the spiritual god stage. Old monster Ching, how can you keep such a treasure for yourself? A one-eyed man shouted. Everyone, this old master discovered this first. The azure-robed old man's expression became even gloomier when he saw the one-eyed man's group of 3. You discovered it first? What a joke, I was only cultivating just now, but my spiritual sense had already discovered it. The one-eyed man sarcastically said. The other 2 also said that they had already noticed it. The 4 of them completely ignored Lu Ming and actually started to fight over it. In their eyes, Lu Ming was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He did not pose any threat. Are you done with your nonsense? Just as the 4 of them were fighting and confronting each other, Lu Ming's voice was heard. The 4 of them quieted down immediately and looked at Lu Ming in a daze. Enough nonsense, then I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming's body emitted a murderous aura. What? What did this kid just say? Ha ha ha. The one-eyed man laughed. Under such circumstances, surrounded by 4 perfected spiritual god experts, Lu Ming actually said that he would send them on their way. Was this kid crazy? Brat, I'll send you on your way first. Killing intent flashed in the one-eyed man's only eye. At the same time, a battle-axe appeared in his hand. The power of thunder and lightning bloomed all over his body as he swung the battle-axe at Lu Ming's throat. Buzz. With a single thought, the lightning cauldron above his head trembled. Then, a bolt of lightning as thick as a water tank burst out and struck the one-eyed man. With a sizzling sound, the one-eyed man was drowned by the lightning. The power of the lightning emitted from his body was like a mouse meeting a cat under the lightning of the lightning cauldron. It instantly vanished. The one-eyed man wailed as his protective Jin Yuan was also shattered by the lightning. His skin and flesh were split open, and smoke rose from his body. What a powerful force, what a powerful treasure, the green-robed elder exclaimed. At the same time, the blazing light in his eyes became even more brilliant. This treasure is extremely powerful. Why don't we join forces and seize the treasure first? Then, we can discuss how to divide it. The green-robed elder said. All right. Sure. The other 2 agreed without any hesitation. The power of the lightning cauldron's attack had shocked them, but at the same time, it also made them even more excited. In an instant, the three of them attacked. 3 terrifying attacks fell on Lu Ming. With the 3 of them working together, even a perfected spiritual god would be severely injured or even killed, let alone an existence at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. Roar! 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 At this moment, a dragon's roar came from Lu Ming's body, and 9 streams of dragon energy burst out instantly. Bang! Lu Ming struck out with his palm and destroyed the attack of one of the grey-robed elders. His palm did not stop and continued to slash at the grey-robed elder's body. The grey-robed old man let out a blood-curdling screech as his body caved in. His body was sent flying like a cannonball as he spat out a large mouthful of blood. A great circle spiritual god expert was severely injured in one move. Kyla. From the lightning cauldron, a huge lightning bolt flew out and drowned the grey-robed old man. He wailed in pain. When the lightning bolt disappeared, the grey-robed old man's body was already charred black, without any signs of life. An expert at the great circle of the spiritual god stage was killed by Lu Ming in 2 moves. At the same time, the attacks of the 2 elders landed on Lu Ming's body. However, Lu Ming's muscles tensed up and he used the prison-suppressing heaven technique, easily nullifying their attacks. Why would I? Their eyes widened in disbelief, and then they were shocked. A perfected spiritual god was killed by Lu Ming in just a few moves. This was too terrifying. Buzz. Lu Ming did not stop. After killing the grey-robed elder, he went after another person. That person frantically tried to block, but under Lu Ming's attack, everything seemed so fragile. Lu Ming's palm pierced through his heart, and the spiritual god did not manage to escape. It was struck into nothingness. Ah, what a freak. Ah. The azure-robed elder was so frightened that he screamed and screamed as he frantically fled. Kill. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps and took a step forward. He appeared above the elder's head and stomped down continuously. The elder's body exploded under the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps. 3 perfected spiritual god powerhouses were killed by Lu Ming in a few breaths. There were still a few people on that mountain, but their cultivation had not reached the great circle of the spiritual god realm. When they saw the 4 great circle spiritual gods attack, they knew that they had no fate with the treasure. Therefore, they did not attack and sighed inwardly. At this moment, all of them were so scared that their faces turned pale. They felt a chill in their hearts as they tried their best to restrain their aura and hide in the mountains. Now, they were glad that they didn't go out. Otherwise, they would be dead. He's a monster. He's a god of death. They thought in fear. The bloodline of the 9 dragons emerged. It opened its mouth and swallowed all the blood essence energy of the few people. Then, it took a step forward and chased after one person. That person was none other than the one-eyed man. He had been struck by the lightning cauldron in the beginning, but he was only severely injured and not dead. When he saw Lu Ming display his divine might and kill a perfected spiritual god expert as if he was chopping vegetables, he had long been scared out of his wits and was running for his life. When he saw Lu Ming, he shrieked in fear, "Spare me, young hero, spare me. I know there's a peerless treasure here." A peerless treasure? With a flash of light, Lu Ming appeared in front of the one-eyed man, deep in thought. Seeing that Lu Ming did not kill him and seemed to be moved, the one-eyed man was overjoyed and shouted, "There's a treasure there that's nurtured by the power of thunder. It's very useful for cultivating the power of thunder or martial techniques. As long as you promise not to kill me, I'll take you there." The one-eyed man looked at Lu Ming with hope. He felt uneasy, afraid that Lu Ming would kill him. "If that treasure can satisfy me, I won't kill you," Lu Ming said. All right. I'll take you there now. You'll definitely be satisfied." The one-eyed man nodded again and again, grasping at the last life-saving straw. Chapter 1243. 1243 Fighting a Supreme Being. "Lead the way," Lu Ming said. The one-eyed man nodded and led the way. Lu Ming followed the one-eyed man into the depths of the lightning territory. Along the way, they crossed many towering mountains and came to a small hill. The small hill was surrounded by endless lightning. What a terrifying power of lightning! Lu Ming's eyes widened. He was a little shocked. The power of thunder and lightning around this hill was at least dozens of times, even hundreds of times more than that of other places. A small hill actually had such a shocking amount of lightning power. It was truly too shocking. Lu Ming sized it up carefully and finally found the reason. There was a small tree on the hill. It was about half a meter tall and had 3 leaves. However, the 3 leaves looked exactly like the phoenix in the legends. They were like 3 small phoenixes hanging on the branches, looking very lifelike. In the sky above the small tree, a phoenix made of lightning was dancing. It flew around the small tree and let out crisp cries. The incomparably dense power of lightning in the surroundings was all because of this small tree. What a wondrous spiritual tree! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If he could use this small tree to cultivate, the cultivation speed of the thunder god strike would definitely increase dramatically. It was indeed a supreme treasure. Buzz. Whoosh. The lightning cauldron on top of Lu Ming's head shook continuously as if it was extremely excited. This is the spirit tree. Now, I can go, right? The one-eyed man looked at Lu Ming carefully. Let's go. Lu Ming waved his hands casually. It didn't matter whether he killed this one-eyed man or not. The one-eyed man was overjoyed and quickly retreated. At the same time, his eyes looked around, as if he was waiting for something. Boom. All of a sudden, not far from the small hill, a terrifying aura burst out. A figure rushed up and appeared not far from Lu Ming in an instant. Paragon. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. There was actually a supreme martial artist hiding near this small hill. It's Dark Lightning Supreme, haha. This brat is dead for sure. How dare he injure me? The one-eyed man's eyes brightened. He laughed in his heart, and a ferocious look flashed in his eyes. He had known that there was a supreme martial artist here and had brought Lu Ming here on purpose. He was sure that the supreme martial artist would attack Lu Ming's lightning cauldron. As expected, a supreme martial artist had appeared. It was a black-robed old man with a terrifying aura that was as deep as the ocean. He was staring at the lightning cauldron above Lu Ming's head with a burning gaze. Ha, with this lightning cauldron, I will definitely be able to enter and obtain the Thunder Phoenix tree. Ha. The black-robed elder laughed and said, Kid, I'm Dark Lightning Supreme. Hand over your lightning cauldron. He wants the lightning cauldron again. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. However, this was the world of martial arts where the strong were respected. It was normal for the strong to snatch the treasures of the weak when they were out adventuring. Lu Ming was not too surprised. However, did the other party really think that he was stronger than him? That person and the others said the same thing to you before, but now, they're all dead. Lu Ming pointed at the one-eyed man in the distance. Oh! How many great circle spiritual gods can you kill? It seems like he's a heaven's favorite. However, do you think that a great circle spiritual god can compare to a supreme? Supreme Dark Thunder's eyes flickered slightly, and then he sneered again. So what if Lu Ming could kill a few perfected spiritual gods? How could a great circle spiritual god be compared to a supreme? Is that so? Lu Ming licked his lips and his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. So what if he was a supreme martial artist? Lu Ming wanted to test his abilities and see if he could fight against a supreme being. Brat, if you still want to fight with this old man, then this old man will fulfill your wish. Sensing Lu Ming's fighting spirit, Dark Thunder Supreme's face darkened, and the aura on his body became even more terrifying. Boom! A terrifying force suddenly pressed down on Lu Ming's body, causing him to tremble slightly. Burst! Lu Ming growled and the 9 streams of dragon energy burst forth. At the same time, his vital essence circulated wildly. The 5 concepts of heaven and earth also burst forth completely, forming a battle suit that covered his entire body. Dark Thunder Hand. Endless black lightning emanated from Dark Thunder Supreme's body. He stretched out his hand, forming a huge black lightning palm that grabbed at Lu Ming. Black lightning flashed and was filled with destructive power. Within the destructive power, there was also a sense of corrosion. The black lightning was extremely terrifying. The 3rd bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. A surge of energy surged into his body, turning his hair blood red. kill. An incomparably strong killing intent rushed out. Lu Ming took a step forward and activated the destructive prison heaven technique. He threw a punch and it landed on the black lightning palm. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. At the point where the fist and the black palm met, a black hole appeared at first, then suddenly exploded, and a terrifying energy scattered in all directions. Bang! 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 Lu Ming's body trembled and he took 3 steps back. However, the black lightning palm was also shattered by Lu Ming's punch. The battle prowess of a supreme martial artist is truly astonishing. Lu Ming felt that his fist was slightly numb. There were even thin black lightning bolts flashing. They tried their best to drill into Lu Ming's fist but were blocked by him. Lu Ming was shocked, but he did not know that Dark Thunder Supreme was even more shocked. He actually blocked it. Supreme Dark Thunder's heart jolted in disbelief. He had never heard of a mere 7th-level spiritual god blocking his attack. Let's see how many moves you can take from this old man. Dark Thunder Venerable's killing intent bloomed, and he struck out with his palm again. The power of this palm was stronger than the previous one, and it was even more shocking. Roar! With a dragon's roar, the 9 dragons' bloodline appeared. Lu Ming transformed into 9 dragons and stepped out with his dragon claws, crushing the black palm print again. Damn it, kill. Dark Lightning Domain. Dark Thunder Supreme's killing intent grew even more intense. He turned his palm into a fist and punched. In this punch, another black domain bloomed and blasted toward Lu Ming. This is the embryonic form of a domain. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He could sense a dangerous aura. Boom. 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 Lu Ming circulated the prison-suppressing heaven technique to its maximum. At the same time, the devouring power burst forth. The 5-colored concept circulated and the strongest power burst forth. Boom. The 2 of them clashed again. The 9 dragons' bodies trembled violently, and their dragon claws stepped in the air as they retreated. However, Dark Thunder Supreme had retreated as well. Moreover, the distance he retreated was not shorter than Lu Ming's. How is this possible? In the distance, the one-eyed man was still watching the battle. At this time, his only eye almost burst, and his mouth was wide open with a dumbfounded expression. Lu Ming, a young man who was not even 30 years old, was actually able to fight a supreme being with his cultivation at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. Furthermore, he was able to force a supreme being to retreat. This was simply unbelievable. How could there be such a powerful young heaven's favorite in the world? Could he be the strongest heaven's favorite of the 4 great divine palaces? Again, you're courting death. Dark Thunder Supreme roared and was truly enraged. He had been famous for thousands of years, but he was actually forced to retreat by a 7th-level spiritual god realm brat. If word of this got out, he wouldn't be able to live anymore. He activated the embryonic form of the domain and continued to launch a storm-like attack on Lu Ming. Chapter 1244. 1244 Chapter 1244 Chasing Away a Supreme Martial Artist. The 9 dragons roared as a terrifying devouring power burst forth, fiercely resisting Dark Thunder Supreme's domain. When the devouring power of the 9 dragons enveloped the area, it also had a trace of the mystery and power of a domain. The 2 of them engaged in an intense battle from the ground to the sky, and then back to the ground again. Terrifying forces swept in all directions, spreading out casually, cutting open the space and destroying the earth. In the distance, the one-eyed man's face was pale and his body was trembling. Supreme Dark Lightning will definitely be able to kill this brat. He still has a bloodline he hasn't used yet. Once he does, this brat will definitely die. The one-eyed man prayed in his heart, but he did not leave. He wanted to see Dark Thunder Supreme kill Lu Ming before he could feel at ease. Lu Ming and Dark Thunder Supreme exchanged hundreds of moves, but neither of them had a clear winner. Your bloodline power is about to be used up, but my bloodline is still useless. Let's see how you die. Supreme Dark Thunder's cold voice rang out. Is that so? Lu Ming's faint voice was heard. At that moment, the light of the 9 dragon bloodline dimmed. The power of the 9-dragon bloodline was almost exhausted. However, before Dark Thunder Supreme could rejoice, a stone tablet rushed out from the bloodline of the 9 dragons. The stone tablet rapidly enlarged, and the words on it shone with a brilliant light. Like an ancient divine mountain, it pressed down on Dark Thunder Supreme with an all-suppressing force. That's impossible. Supreme Dark Thunder roared in disbelief. Lu Ming actually had 2 types of divine-level bloodlines. Furthermore, their levels were so high. Although the prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline was only at the 8th level of the divine level, the aura it emitted was extremely terrifying, shocking Dark Lightning Supreme. Boom! The prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline clashed with Dark Lightning Supreme, and the terrifying suppressive force caused him to stagger back. Dark Thunder Supreme was actually at a disadvantage. This made the one-eyed man, who was watching the battle from a distance, almost bite his tongue, and his body was covered in cold sweat. A martial artist at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm was actually able to suppress a supreme being with his own combat power. This was simply like a fantasy that he had never heard of. He thought he was dreaming. Boom! The prison-suppressing Steely's bloodline trembled, and the light became even brighter. The word on the Steely seemed to have a magical power. A mysterious power was activated by Lu Ming, and it emitted an aura that could suppress thousands of worlds. It was so oppressive that even Dark Thunder Supreme's heart was trembling. At this moment, he unleashed his bloodline power without any hesitation. His bloodline was a hammer with black lightning and 6 golden chakra. It was a divine level rank 6 bloodline. Dark Thunder Supreme turned into a beam of light and rushed into the hammer. The hammer rapidly grew in size, becoming as big as the prison-suppressing Steely bloodline. Black lightning surrounded it, and it blasted towards the prison-suppressing Steely bloodline. Thump! A dull sound rang out, as if the stars had shifted, and the world shook. The prison-suppressing Steely shook and was sent flying. Dark Thunder Supreme's battle power had indeed increased by a large margin after using bloodline fusion. Go to hell! The huge thunder hammer, like the hammer of the primordial god of thunder, brought with it thousands of thunderbolts and smashed toward Lu Ming. Go! With a single thought from Lu Ming, the lightning cauldron floating in the air trembled slightly. Thousands of lightning bolts exploded, turning into the laughter of a mountain that crashed toward the huge hammer. Thump! There was another muffled bang. This time, they were evenly matched. The lightning cauldron and the giant hammer both retreated, but the furious and shocked roar of Dark Thunder Supreme rang out from the lightning hammer. What the hell is this? The lightning cauldron had actually absorbed some of the black lightning from the hammer during the collision. This lightning was the essence of Dark Thunder Supreme's bloodline. If it was absorbed, it would have a great impact on his future cultivation. It would even reduce his chances of breaking through to the Emperor realm. Boom! Boom! The prison-suppressing Steely bloodline and the lightning cauldron shot toward Dark Lightning Supreme. 2 more booms rang out. This time, the giant hammer formed by Dark Thunder Sovereign was knocked flying, and some of the lightning from it was absorbed by the lightning cauldron. Buzz! After absorbing Dark Lightning Supreme's lightning, the lightning cauldron seemed to be very excited. It trembled slightly, and Lu Ming could feel its excitement. Then let's continue. Lu Ming controlled the lightning cauldron and continued to bombard the giant hammer. This time, a large amount of black lightning was absorbed by the lightning cauldron. Dark Lightning Sovereign let out an angry roar, and in the end, he couldn't maintain the shape of his bloodline and dissipated. Brat, I'll remember this. Supreme Dark Thunder transformed into a thunderbolt and fled. He transformed into a bolt of lightning, piercing through the void and disappearing in the blink of an eye. A supreme being was sent running away by Lu Ming, a 7th-level spiritual god realm youth. If this were to spread, no one would believe it. Supremes were synonymous with invincibility when emperors weren't present. They were known as supreme venerables who had comprehended the embryonic form of a domain and could be called half-step emperors. They were much stronger than ordinary Great Circle spiritual gods. But now, he was beaten away by a youth in the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. He was beaten until he could only run for his life. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, No one would have believed it. Even though he had seen it with his own eyes, it still felt like a dream. At this moment, the one-eyed man seemed to be in a dream. His eyes were wide open, and he only reacted after a long time. He immediately turned around and ran away in fear. "You're quite fast." Lu Ming looked in the direction that Dark Thunder Supreme had fled in and secretly felt that it was a pity. He didn't give chase. The speed of a supreme martial artist was too fast, and they could tear through space. Even if he gave chase, he wouldn't be able to catch up. Chirping. On his shoulder, the chubby bubble chirped and waved its little claws. The bubbles on its nose, one big and one small, followed its breath. "Are you saying that if you help him, he won't be able to escape?" Lu Ming tried to guess what Bubbles meant. Chirping. Bubbles nodded and waved her claws. "All right, I'll ask for your help next time." Lu Ming touched the Bubbles' round body. Then, he looked in the direction where the one-eyed man had left. He sneered. "You dare to scheme against me, you're really looking for death." Lu Ming took a step forward and turned into a stream of light, chasing after the one-eyed man. Not long after, a blood-curdling scream was heard. The one-eyed man was killed by Lu Ming. After killing the one-eyed man, Lu Ming returned to the vicinity of the small hill. He looked at the Thunder Phoenix tree inside but did not enter immediately. The lightning around the Thunder Phoenix tree was too strong. It was extremely terrifying and filled with destructive power. Furthermore, Dark Thunder Supreme was standing guard in the vicinity, yet he didn't enter to take away the Thunder Phoenix tree. This showed that the Thunder Phoenix tree was definitely extremely terrifying. "Let's try it first." After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming decided to give it a try. Since he had come here and encountered the Thunder Phoenix tree, there was no reason for him to retreat. He would not be satisfied if he did not give it a try. Lu Ming controlled the lightning cauldron to float above his head. He stepped into the area with a radius of 100 miles around the small hill. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as he stepped into that area, the sky and earth rumbled and endless lightning struck wildly at Lu Ming. That kind of power was countless times more terrifying than Lu Ming's heavenly lightning tribulation. Buzz. However, at this moment, the lightning cauldron trembled as if it was very excited. A powerful suction force erupted and absorbed the power of the lightning in an instant. Lu Ming was safe and sound. Chapter 1245. 1245 Chapter 1245 Rapid Progress. This lightning cauldron is really amazing. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This lightning cauldron had been obtained from the 100 Deities Slope. The 100 Deities Slope was formed from the descent of numerous powerful corpses from the sky countless years ago. The lightning cauldron was most likely a supreme treasure. Moreover, the 100 Deities Slope had been explored for so many years, yet it was still preserved. Furthermore, it had actually transcended its own tribulation back then. It was definitely not ordinary. Lu Ming felt that it was unfathomable. In the past, he couldn't control it at all. It was only when his thunder concept broke through to the complete stage of level 4 that he could barely control the thunder cauldron. However, Lu Ming felt that he had not exerted much of the lightning cauldron's power. The power contained in the lightning cauldron seemed to be infinite. Lu Ming could not help but think of the round bead he had encountered at the 100 Deities Slope years ago. It contained powerful wind energy. It must be extraordinary to be able to remain untouched for so many years at the 100 Deities Slope. Lu Ming thought to himself that if he had the chance, he would definitely go to the 100 Deities Slope again. With the help of the lightning cauldron, Lu Ming was relieved and strode forward. Boom, boom, boom. The closer he was to the Thunder Phoenix tree, the more terrifying and powerful the power of the thunder between heaven and earth was. By the time they were 10 miles away from the Thunder Phoenix tree, the power of the thunder had reached a terrifying level. The lightning here is so powerful that even paragons would be in danger. They'd be heavily injured, or even killed. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. It was no wonder that the Dark Thunder Supreme was guarding the nearby area and didn't come in to collect the Thunder Phoenix tree. That was because the Dark Thunder Supreme couldn't even get close to the Thunder Phoenix tree. If he walked in, he might die here. However, Lu Ming had the lightning cauldron, so there was no problem at all. The boundless power of lightning between heaven and earth was all absorbed by the lightning cauldron. Lu Ming strode forward and kept approaching the thunder phoenix tree. 10 miles, 9 miles, 8 miles. Very soon, Lu Ming was only a mile away from the thunder phoenix tree. At that moment, a phoenix's cry was heard. A phoenix that was completely condensed from lightning spread its wings and flew toward Lu Ming. Its eyes were filled with ferocity, and it was as vivid as a real phoenix. With a screech, the lightning phoenix pounced toward the lightning cauldron. Buzz! The lightning cauldron trembled, and a vast pressure of the Tao of lightning spread out. This pressure enveloped the lightning phoenix. The lightning phoenix let out a wail and actually let out an extremely terrified cry as it retreated rapidly. Suppress, Lu Ming said softly. The lightning cauldron flew forward and suppressed the lightning phoenix. The phoenix cried out in fear. It was unable to resist at all as it was suppressed by the lightning cauldron. In the end, it turned into lightning and was absorbed by the lightning cauldron. Then, the lightning cauldron hovered above the thunder phoenix tree, exuding the might of lightning. It was as if a superior was giving orders to a subordinate. During this process, a strange scene happened. The thunder phoenix tree shone, and the endless thunder and lightning around it weakened. Slowly, the area returned to normal, and there was no more powerful thunder and lightning. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He strode forward and grabbed the thunder phoenix tree. Under the suppression of the thunder cauldron, the thunder phoenix tree's lightning power was completely retracted. It did not harm Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming plucked the thunder phoenix tree and sensed it carefully. He could still feel the rich power of thunder and lightning from the thunder phoenix tree. If Lu Ming used the thunder phoenix tree to cultivate the thunder god strike, the results would be outstanding. I'm looking for a place to cultivate. Lu Ming smiled, dug out the thunder phoenix tree, and left the place. A few hours later, Lu Ming found a mountain peak rich in lightning energy. He opened up a cave abode in the middle of the mountain peak. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the cave abode and with a thought, the thunder phoenix tree appeared in his hands. Wisps of lightning emanated from the thunder phoenix tree and enveloped Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's entire body was bathed in the rich power of lightning. He closed his eyes and combined the rich power of lightning to cultivate the thunder god strike. With the help of the thunder phoenix tree, Lu Ming's understanding of the thunder god strike improved by leaps and bounds. In just 2 days, the thunder god strike had broken through and reached the 2nd level. 9 days later, thunder god strike broke through again and reached the 3rd level. There were still a few days before the start of the 2nd round. Lu Ming planned to cultivate until the last day before returning to the ancient city of the divine ruins. 5 to 6 figures appeared not far from Lu Ming's cultivation place. Lu Ming recognized one of them. It was the lightning bull whose arm Lu Ming had cut off. The other people were all Lei Nyo's subordinates. Young Master Nyo, the power of the lightning cauldron here is not bad. You can cultivate here, an old man said. This won't do. The power of thunder here still hasn't reached my expectations. I must find a place with extremely dense power of the thunder cauldron. I'm still a little short of recovering my Yuan Qi, but I haven't fully recovered yet. I need a place with extremely dense power of thunder to fully recover, the thunder bull said. At the mention of this, he thought of Lu Ming and his eyes could not help but flash with fire. He could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces. If it were not for Lu Ming, he would not have ended up in such a state. Everyone else was seizing the time to break through, but he was seizing the time to recover. In this way, he had unknowingly pulled apart from others. It's all that guy's fault. Lu Ming, I don't know where he has been hiding all this time. I must find an opportunity to take revenge. The lightning bull gritted his teeth. Suddenly, his nose twitched a few times, and 2 horns appeared on his forehead, flashing with the power of thunder. There's a powerful force of lightning ahead. The thunder bull's eyes lit up. As a demonic beast, it was born to control thunder and lightning. It was very sensitive to the power of thunder and lightning, far more sensitive than ordinary people. Let's go, in front. The thunder bull took the lead and flew in one direction. The direction it was flying in was the mountain peak where Lu Ming was in seclusion. Not long after, the lightning bull arrived at the mountain peak where Lu Ming was in seclusion. Young Lord Niu, there seems to be someone cultivating in seclusion on this mountain. However, judging from their aura, their cultivation level isn't very strong, an old man beside him said. Treasure, a lightning treasure. At this moment, the two horns on the thunderbull's forehead were flashing with lightning. His eyes were shining. He could sense that there were extremely precious lightning treasures in this mountain, and they were very tempting. Blast this mountain open. I want the treasure inside. The lightning bull's eyes were burning with passion. Yes. Two burly men bowed and accepted the order. Soon after, a powerful aura erupted from their bodies. It was actually the aura of a great circle spiritual god. The two-blade lights were as big as mountains. They broke through the sky and slashed towards the mountain. The mountain was split open like tofu. Lu Ming was in the midst of comprehending the thunder god's strike when he suddenly felt a sense of danger. He opened his eyes and ended his cultivation. You're looking for death. Lu Ming let out a long howl. His entire body was wrapped in endless lightning as he rushed out of the rubble. The rubble, regardless of its size, was turned into dust by the lightning on Lu Ming's body. Kill. Lu Ming turned into a bolt of lightning and charged at the two men in the great circle of the spiritual god stage. He activated the thunder god strike and threw two punches in a row. The lightning in the sky gathered and turned into two lightning phoenixes that pounced at the two men. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the cave abode and with a thought, the thunder phoenix tree appeared in his hands. Wisps of lightning emanated from the thunder phoenix tree and enveloped Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's entire body was bathed in the rich power of lightning. He closed his eyes and combined the rich power of lightning to cultivate the thunder god strike. With the help of the thunder phoenix tree, Lu Ming's understanding of the thunder god strike improved by leaps and bounds. In just 2 days, the thunder god strike had broken through and reached the second level. 9 days later, thunder god strike broke through again and reached the third level. There were still a few days before the start of the second round. Lu Ming planned to cultivate until the last day before returning to the ancient city of the divine ruins. 5 to 6 figures appeared not far from Lu Ming's cultivation place. Lu Ming recognized one of them. It was the lightning bull whose arm Lu Ming had cut off. The other people were all Lei Niu's subordinates. Young Master Niu, the power of the lightning cauldron here is not bad. You can cultivate here, an old man said. This won't do. The power of thunder here still hasn't reached my expectations. I must find a place with extremely dense power of the thunder cauldron. I'm still a little short of recovering my yuan qi, but I haven't fully recovered yet. I need a place with extremely dense power of thunder to fully recover, the thunder bull said. At the mention of this, he thought of Lu Ming and his eyes could not help but flash with fire. He could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces. If it were not for Lu Ming, he would not have ended up in such a state. Everyone else was seizing the time to break through, but he was seizing the time to recover. In this way, he had unknowingly pulled apart from others. It's all that guy's fault. Lu Ming, I don't know where he has been hiding all this time. I must find an opportunity to take revenge. The lightning bull gritted his teeth. Suddenly, his nose twitched a few times, and 2 horns appeared on his forehead, flashing with the power of thunder. There's a powerful force of lightning ahead. The thunder bull's eyes lit up. As a demonic beast, it was born to control thunder and lightning. It was very sensitive to the power of thunder and lightning, far more sensitive than ordinary people. Let's go, in front. The thunder bull took the lead and flew in one direction. The direction it was flying in was the mountain peak where Lu Ming was in seclusion. Not long after, the lightning bull arrived at the mountain peak where Lu Ming was in seclusion. Young Lord Niu, there seems to be someone cultivating in seclusion on this mountain. However, judging from their aura, their cultivation level isn't very strong, an old man beside him said. Treasure, a lightning treasure. At this moment, the 2 horns on the thunderbull's forehead were flashing with lightning. His eyes were shining. He could sense that there were extremely precious lightning treasures in this mountain, and they were very tempting. Blast this mountain open. I want the treasure inside. The lightning bull's eyes were burning with passion. Yes. 2 burly men bowed and accepted the order. Soon after, a powerful aura erupted from their bodies. It was actually the aura of a great circle spiritual god. The 2-blade lights were as big as mountains. They broke through the sky and slashed towards the mountain. The mountain was split open like tofu. Lu Ming was in the midst of comprehending the thunder god's strike when he suddenly felt a sense of danger. He opened his eyes and ended his cultivation. You're looking for death. Lu Ming let out a long howl. His entire body was wrapped in endless lightning as he rushed out of the rubble. The rubble, regardless of its size, was turned into dust by the lightning on Lu Ming's body. Kill. Lu Ming turned into a bolt of lightning and charged at the 2 men in the great circle of the spiritual god stage. He activated the thunder god strike and threw 2 punches in a row. The lightning in the sky gathered and turned into 2 lightning phoenixes that pounced at the 2 men. The 9 dragons opened their mouths and devoured the blood essence and energy of the 3 great circle spiritual god realm experts, turning them into 3 dried corpses. Kill. Supreme Thunder Rhino, kill him. The Thunder Bull roared hysterically. Buzz. The single-horned elder, who was also Thunder Rhino Supreme, took out a saber that was flashing with lightning. He slashed the void open and slashed at Lu Ming. Bang. Bang. The 9 dragon claws of the 9 dragons stepped out one after another. A few of them used the prison-suppressing heaven art, while the other dragon claws were filled with lightning. They were actually using the Thunder God strike. The 2 terrifying ultimate techniques were used at the same time, and their power was vast. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Supreme Thunder Rhino had exchanged dozens of moves. Boom. After the last exchange of blows, Lu Ming and Supreme Thunder Rhino retreated at the same time. Supreme Thunder Rhino's expression was extremely gloomy. He was a Supreme, but he couldn't even take down Lu Ming. He felt as if he had lost all his face. The Lightning Bull was shocked as well. Lu Ming's combat strength was stronger than when he had fought with the bull. He could actually fight against a supreme being. Whoosh! At this moment, there was a flash of lightning in the distance. A figure appeared behind Lu Ming. Dark Lightning Supreme. It was actually Dark Lightning Supreme. This caused the expressions of Thunder Bull and Supreme Thunder Rhinoceros to change slightly. Why had a supreme martial artist suddenly appeared at this time? You too, this brat has a grudge against me. Why don't we join forces and kill this brat? Supreme Dark Thunder said. This caused the eyes of Thunder Bull and Supreme Thunder Rhino to light up. The supreme being who had suddenly arrived was actually Lu Ming's enemy. The Lightning Bull was ecstatic. Ha ha ha, good. Senior, let's join forces and kill him. The Lightning Bull laughed and ordered the Lightning Rhinoceros to join forces with Dark Lightning Supreme. Guys, this brat has 2 bloodlines, both of which are extremely terrifying. We'd better attack together and use our full strength to kill him as soon as possible, Supreme Dark Thunder said. Alright, then let's go all out. Brat, die. Supreme Lightning Rhinoceros let out a loud roar, and his body rapidly expanded, transforming into a single-horned rhinoceros the size of a mountain. His entire body was covered in lightning. As for Dark Lightning Supreme, he used bloodline fusion to form a giant hammer. Since you've come to die after escaping, then I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. With a single thought, the lightning cauldron appeared and was hurled at the huge hammer. At the same time, he himself charged toward the giant hammer that Dark Thunder Supreme had transformed into. Buzz. However, Supreme Thunder Rhinoceros let out a loud cry. He stepped into the void and charged towards Lu Ming. Thunder Rhinoceros Supreme had 70% of the bloodline of a divine beast. In terms of strength, he was even stronger than Dark Thunder Supreme. A beam of lightning shot out from his single horn, heading straight for Lu Ming. Dandan. Lu Ming called out and released Dandan from the mountain and river diagram. He said, I'll leave this single-horned rhino to you. Don't worry, I'll kill him, Dandan said with confidence. Ever since he swallowed the 10,000 spirit crystal in the divine ruins, he had been digesting it all this time. His strength was increasing and recovering every day, and now, according to him, dealing with a Supreme was no problem. Get lost. Supreme Lightning Rhinoceros roared. Dandan retracted her 4 limbs into the turtle shell, and the turtle shell rolled and hit the lightning beam, blocking it. A wild rhinoceros dares to be impudent in front of this lord. Watch as this lord flay your skin. Dandan arrogantly shouted as her body rapidly expanded. In the end, she became twice the size of Thunder Rhino Supreme and sent a palm towards him. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.